Chapter 1168. When Yi Chen heard this, he smiled and raised his cup to Lu Hong. Your Majesty, this humble subject was able to return victorious only because your Majesty presided over the royal court and stabilized the great Han dynasty. Otherwise, this humble subject would not have been able to achieve this even if he had the ability to hold up the sky. Therefore, this first toast is to your Majesty. As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, Lu Hong was slightly stunned and then overjoyed. Ha! You have beach is absolutely right. This first toast is to be drunk by me. When all the civil and military officials saw this, they all looked at Yi Chen strangely. No one had expected that you of beach of the great Han Empire, Yi Chen, would actually say such flattering words. Of course, although they were shocked, all the civil and military officials had to admire Yi Chen, because this was the way of being an official. It sounded like the truth, but it was King flattery. And Lu Hong liked to hear it, and it was very pleasing to hear. When the emperor was pleased, Yi Chen, Prince Yu of Han, the great general of agile cavalry, would be able to receive more imperial favor, and the Yi clan would become more prosperous because of this. Of course, this could only be said by Yi Chen. If it were someone else, it would have a completely different meaning. After all, the others did not have as many great contributions as Yi Chen. After a short period of shock, He Jin, who was sitting at the head of the row of generals, suddenly raised his cup and bowed to Lu Hong. To your Majesty. When all the civil and military officials heard this, they all hurriedly raised their cups and bowed to Lu Hong. To your Majesty. When Lu Hong heard this, his smile became even more carefree. Then, he raised his cup and drank it in one gulp. When Yi Chen and all the civil and military officials saw this, they also drank the wine in their cups in one gulp. At this moment, Lu Hong looked at Yi Chen again and said, You're right. You of beach, this second cup is a toast to you. Your Majesty, this second cup is also for your Majesty. When Yi Chen heard this, he smiled and said. Then, he picked up the wine cup that the palace maid had just poured for him and said to Lu Hong, Your Highness, I'm not going to give you a chance. Your Majesty, as a general, what I fear the most is suspicion and jealousy. If your Majesty didn't trust me, I would have already been arrested and interrogated. Therefore, this second cup of wine should still be a toast to your Majesty. Without your Majesty's trust, how could I have wholeheartedly devoted myself to the war? How could I have obtained such a victory? When Yi Chen said these words, Lu Hong froze. At this moment, Zhang Rang, who was standing next to Lu Hong, suddenly bowed to Lu Hong and said, Your Majesty, I'm not just expressing my displeasure. Your Majesty, His Excellency King Yu, is not venting his dissatisfaction. He is speaking from the bottom of his heart. Think about it. Did some of the officials in the court deliberately speak ill of His Excellency King Yu? If it were not for your Majesty's insistence, I'm afraid His Excellency King Yu would really be punished. Father Rang is extremely correct. When Lu Hong heard this, his expression immediately darkened. After speaking, he glared fiercely at the officials who had spoken ill of Yi Chen and shouted, All of you, listen carefully. After the banquet, each of you will send 100,000 purple coins to you of beach. Otherwise, we will punish you for the crime of deceiving the sovereign. When Lu Hong finished speaking, the expressions of the officials that Lu Hong had seen immediately changed. 100,000 purple coins was 10 million gold coins. Fuck, this wasn't a small sum. But these words came from Lu Hong, so how could they dare to refuse? Yi Chen glanced at the officials whose expressions had changed, and then he looked at Lu Hong and said, Your Majesty, this should be paid. Your Majesty, this fine should be handed to your Majesty, not me. As long as I have your Majesty's trust, everything is enough. Yi Chen found an excuse to propose a toast so that Lu Hong could drink more and have Lu Hong die earlier. It wasn't for the sake of some ransom. Others couldn't see the thick aura of death on Lu Hong's body, but Yi Chen could see it. Although Yi Chen didn't know how Lu Hong had ruined his own body, Yi Chen was very happy to see this result. Because if Lu Hong died, the history of the Great Han Empire would automatically turn to the Dongzhuo Rebellion, and then to the struggle for hegemony. At that time, Yi Qin's plan would come to an end. As for the small interlude that followed the second toast, although Yi Qin didn't know the details, he could guess from Zhang Rang's words that it wasn't far from the truth. To be more precise, it was none other than when Yi Qin had left the country for war, some of the civil and military officials had made things difficult for Yi Qin. Yi Qin naturally didn't take this to heart. After all, Zhang Rang was a great eunuch, and he wouldn't let Yi Qin, one of his own, suffer a loss. This was the result. Otherwise, how could Lu Hong value Yi Qin so much? Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Yi Qin did his best to make Lu Hong feel at ease and happy before Lu Hong died. Doing this wasn't difficult. He just needed to hand over the fine that the officials who had made things difficult for Yi Qin had to pay to Lu Hong. There was nothing to be done about it. Lu Hong's greatest hobby was his greed for money. As soon as Yi Qin finished speaking, Lu Hong's eyes suddenly lit up and he said, "You of Beach, be at ease. Other than you and Father Rang, we don't trust anyone else." Lu Hong's shameless and brainless words caused the faces of all the civil and military officials to change. Fuck, you're an emperor, yet you're saying such things in front of all the officials. Have you even used your brain? This was what all the civil and military officials were thinking, but no one dared to say it aloud. At this moment, Yi Qin looked at the officials and generals of the imperial court, then at Lu Hong. The second toast is to your majesty's wisdom. To your majesty. All the civil and military officials hurriedly raised their cups and toasted. Lu Hong laughed, then picked up the wine cup on the table and drained it in one gulp. When Yi Qin saw this, he smiled slightly. Then he downed the cup in one gulp and put it down. When the palace maids standing at the back saw this, they quickly went forward and filled Yi Qin's cup with wine. At this moment, Lu Hong picked up a glass of wine he had just filled and looked at Yi Qin. "You of Beach, shouldn't we be toasting you with this cup?" Yi Qin chuckled and shook his head. "Your Majesty, this lowly subject should still be toasting you with this third cup." When Lu Hong heard this, he asked in confusion, "Why?" Yi Qin picked up his cup and stood up, then turned to Lu Hong and said, "Your Majesty, this lowly subject owes his achievements to your Majesty's unconventional promotion. Without your Majesty, this lowly subject would not have achieved his current glory. This third cup can only be this lowly subject's toasting to your Majesty." When Lu Hong heard Yi Qin's words, his heart was filled with joy. After laughing out loud, Lu Hong nodded his head in a carefree manner and said, "That's right. Good, we will drink this third cup." After Lu Hong finished speaking, he downed the wine in one gulp. When Yi Qin saw this, he quickly followed suit and finished the wine in his cup. Yi Qin poured the cup down, indicating that he had finished drinking. Then, he held the wine cup and bowed to Lu Hong. "Your Majesty, this lowly subject went on an expedition abroad. Although his gains were not great, they were the finest of the imperial family of each country. Now, this lowly subject has brought these items back to the great Han dynasty. Your Majesty, please take a look." After Yi Qin finished speaking, he took out 10 crosses. After Lu Hong was stunned for a moment, his eyes instantly lit up. At this moment, Zhang Rang, who was beside Lu Hong, walked up to Yi Qin and took the crosses. Then, he handed them to Lu Hong. "Your Majesty, this object has the ability to store items. Your Majesty, you only need to place it on your forehead to see what is inside." When Lu Hong heard this, he hurriedly picked up a cross and placed it on his forehead. In the next second, Lu Hong was completely dumbfounded. After a brief moment of shock, Lu Hong suddenly stood up with a tongue sound. "You of Beach, we like your gift very much." Ha ha ha. Lu Hong laughed heartily because the items in the crosses were either gold, silver, jewelry, or rare treasures. Moreover, the quantity was simply outrageous. This was just the items in one cross. If all the crosses were included, it would be a sea of items. And for the extremely greedy Lu Hong, this was no different from a huge stimulus. In fact, this was also Yi Qin's intention. As for the purpose, it was to let Lu Hong die as soon as possible so that the history of the Three Kingdoms novice region could progress. Chapter 1169. At first glance, Yi Chen's methods would not allow Lu Hong to die so quickly, but this was not the case at all. After all, great joy and great sorrow were the most damaging to the body, and wine and lust were the same. To be more precise, if Yi Chen had not urged him to drink, Lu Hong would not have drunk 3 cups, and if Yi Chen had not taken out such a vast amount of wealth, Lu Hong would not have been so excited. As a result, Lu Hong's body, which was already severely overdrawn, became even worse as it deteriorated at an even faster pace. This was Yi Chen's goal. It was very sinister, but no one could see the reason. Lu Hong sat on the dragon throne and excitedly laughed. The officials in the court glanced at each other, and then they all raised their cups to Lu Hong and said, "This is Lu Hong's honor. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Majesty." When Lu Hong heard the words of the civil and military officials, he immediately became even happier. After putting away the 10 crosses, he once again raised the wine cup filled by the palace maids and shouted, "This is the first time I've heard of this. Come, come, all of you drink with us." "Yes, Your Majesty. Your Majesty," the officials hurriedly replied and downed their cups of wine. Yi Chen, who was seated next to Lu Hong, also drank the cup of wine that the palace maid had refilled. Once the officials had placed their cups down and the palace maids had filled their cups, Lu Hong raised his cup to Yi Chen and said, "You have beach. It should be his turn to toast you this cup, right?" Yi Chen hastily raised his cup and bowed to Lu Hong with indescribable gratitude. "Thank you, Your Majesty." After Yi Chen finished speaking, he drank the wine. When Lu Hong saw this, he laughed out loud and finished the wine in one gulp. After drinking 5 cups of wine in a row, Lu Hong's head suddenly became dizzy, and his body involuntarily swayed. Zhang Rang saw this and hurriedly supported Lu Hong. "Your Majesty, this wine should be savored slowly." When Lu Hong heard Zhang Rang's words, his calm expression suddenly changed. He looked somewhat angrily at Zhang Rang and said, "Of course, I do not know how to savor wine slowly. It's just that this emperor is used to drinking Baihua wine, and it's hard to change the habit. That's why this emperor is like this." Baihua wine was a specialty of Samsara City. Even the Baihua wine on the market would not harm one's body if one drank it casually. And it was precisely because Lu Hong had drunk the 100-flower wine that he knew the benefits of it. Otherwise, he would not have said this. "Your Majesty, please forgive me. This servant has already sent out a large number of people to investigate the theft of the 100 flowers wine. However, the thief used some unknown method and did not leave any traces behind." This servant. When Zhang Rang heard this, she knelt on the ground with a plop and kowtowed with a face full of regret. When Lu Hong saw Zhang Rang's remorseful expression, he sighed deeply and said, "Why would I blame this servant for this? Why would I blame you for this? However, I ordered you to investigate the origin of the 100 flowers wine. Have you made any progress?" Reporting to Your Majesty, the 100 flowers wine's production area. Zhang Rang hesitated for a moment when he heard this, then abruptly stopped mid-sentence. At the same time, Zhang Rang stole a glance at Yi Chen. When Yi Chen saw this, he raised his eyebrows. This Baihua wine was no ordinary wine. It was one of the top 10 wines of the primordial world. It could not be casually given to Lu Hong to drink. Yi Chen had previously investigated the Baihua wine and found out about Lu Buwei's existence. He had also found out that Lu Buwei had poisoned the Baihua wine. Therefore, Yi Chen had specially confiscated all the Baihua wine on the market, including the imperial palace. Otherwise, Zhang Rang would not have been able to find out the truth even after investigating again and again. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Zhang Rang stole a glance at Yi Chen, clearly telling Yi Chen that he had found out the origin of the Baihua wine. As for how to tell this to Lu Hong, it was up to Yi Chen. If it was anything else, Yi Chen would naturally not care. However, Baihua wine was out of the question. It was one of the top 10 wines of the primordial world. No matter how much one drank, it would not harm one's body. Most importantly, drinking Baihua wine for a long time could not only prolong one's life, but also make one's body healthier. If Lu Hong had gotten his hands on the normal 100 flowers wine, how could he have died? If Lu Hong did not die, Yi Chen would have to wait for a long time. This was not an outcome that Yi Chen wanted to see. However, there was no need to hide this either. In any case, Lu Hong did not have many days left to live. He might as well take advantage of this opportunity to earn some money. With this thought, Yi Chen gave Zhang Rang a reassuring look. Then, he looked straight at Lu Hong and bowed. Your Majesty, this humble subject knows the origin of this Baiwa wine. When Lu Hong heard this, his eyes lit up. He hurriedly looked at Yi Chen and asked, Worthy son-in-law, where is the origin of the Baiwa wine? How could Lu Hong, who had drunk Baiwa wine, not know whether it was good or not? Otherwise, Lu Hong would not have been so serious after hearing Yi Chen's words. When Yi Chen heard Lu Hong's question, he smiled and bowed. Your Majesty, this Baiwa wine was originally produced in this humble subject's samsara city. However, during the Yellow Turban Rebellion and the invasion of the demon race, this humble subject's samsara city was breached and the Baiwa wine was cut off. As soon as Yi Chen said this, intense disappointment appeared on Lu Hong's face. How could this be? This damned Yellow Turban, damned demon race. As soon as Lu Hong finished speaking through gritted teeth, Yi Chen continued. However, Your Majesty, when this humble subject went abroad to fight, I found the brewer and instructed him to continue making Baiwa wine. When Lu Hong heard this, his eyes lit up and he hurriedly asked, Really? When Yi Chen heard this, he chuckled and nodded. However, he immediately let out a long sigh. Sensing that Yi Chen's tone was off, Lu Hong hurriedly asked, Worthy son-in-law, do you have any difficulties? When Yi Chen heard Lu Hong's anxious question, he nodded seriously and said, Your Majesty, this is an immortal wine. If it was brewed using the same method as before, it would not be difficult. However, if you want to brew a true immortal wine that can prolong one's life, you must use spirit herbs. Thus, when this humble subject learned of this matter, I specially ordered people to search for spirit herbs. However, this humble subject's ability is limited and was unable to collect many spirit herbs. Worthy son-in-law, are you telling the truth? That Baiwa wine, if brewed with spirit herbs, can it really prolong one's life? When Lu Hong heard this, he suddenly stood up and asked with a face full of excitement. When Yi Chen heard this, he nodded without hesitation and said, Your Majesty, the recipe for the immortal wine was brewed from the immortal wine. Your Majesty, the 100 Flowers wine is a recipe left behind by the immortal realm in the mortal world. Previously, the brewer was not proficient enough, so he was unable to brew the essence of the 100 Flowers wine, which is to prolong one's life. Now, the brewer has grasped the basics of brewing the wine, and he only lacks the spiritual herbs. Good. When Lu Hong heard this, he was instantly overjoyed. He then looked at Zhang Rang and said, Father Rang, hurry, bring my good son-in-law to the secret storehouse and hand over all the spirit herbs to you of Beach. Yes, Your Majesty. When Zhang Rang heard this, he immediately gave a flattering smile and bowed. Wait. When Lu Hong heard this, he suddenly thought of something and looked at Zhang Rang. Father, write a decree for all citizens of the Great Han Dynasty, regardless of whether they are noble families or commoners, to search for spirit herbs for us. Yes, Your Majesty. When Zhang Rang heard this, he was slightly taken aback and hurriedly bowed. Chapter 1170. When Yi Chen heard this, he glanced at the impatient Lu Hong and bowed. Your Majesty, this lowly subject will take his leave. When Lu Hong heard this, he froze for a moment before finally coming to his senses. The welcoming banquet for Yi Chen had just begun, so it was truly inappropriate for him to have Yi Chen leave to brew 100 Flower wine for him. After coming to his senses, Lu Hong looked straight at Yi Chen and said apologetically, My husband has been unwell lately. Thus, we urgently need 100 Flower wine. Please don't take it to heart and don't disappoint us. When Yi Chen heard this, his expression turned solemn, and he bowed with incomparable seriousness. Rest assured, Your Majesty, this lowly subject guarantees that I will brew 100-flower wine for your majesty within a month. Lu Hong was currently shrouded in the aura of death. Others might not be able to see it, but Yi Chun could. To be more precise, Lu Hong could only live for 10 days to half a month at most. After that, Lu Hong was 100% certain that he would die. Even with the help of medicinal stones, it would be of no use. It was precisely for this reason that Yi Chun had said that he would brew 100-flower wine for Lu Hong within a month. When Yi Chun said this, Lu Hong's eyes suddenly lit up, and he excitedly said, "Good, good, haha." Seeing Lu Hong's indescribably excited appearance, Yi Chun couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Continue to be excited. Originally, you could have lived for 10 days to half a month, but with this excitement, you'll lose another day or two. With this thought, Yi Chun solemnly bowed and said, "There's no time to delay. This lowly subject will take his leave first." When Lu Hong heard this, he nodded and said, "Go. Remember, brew the 100 flowers wine for me as soon as possible. The sooner the better." When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded and bowed. "Yes, Your Majesty." After Yi Chun finished speaking, he followed Zhang Rang out of the main hall and headed towards the secret treasury of the imperial palace. When the officials saw this, they all opened their mouths, but no words came out. There was nothing they could do. The one who did this was the emperor of the Great Han Dynasty, Lu Hong. What could they, the officials, say? Moreover, Yi Chun, you of Beach from the Great Han Empire, didn't have any complaints, so there was no need for them to get involved. In the secret vault of the palace. As soon as Yi Chun followed Zhang Rang here, Zhang Rang directly led Yi Chun to the place where the high-grade elixirs were stored. When they arrived, Zhang Rang waved his subordinates away and then bowed to Yi Chun with a face full of regret. "You of Beach, Your Majesty, I didn't know that the 100-flower wine came from Samsara City. If I had known, I wouldn't have sent people to investigate. You of Beach, Your Majesty, please understand. Investigating the place where the 100-flower wine came from wasn't a big deal, but it was different if it came from Samsara City. After all, it was Yi Chun's territory. If Yi Chun was unhappy because of this, then Zhang Rang would make Yi Chun, one of his own people, go against the group of eunuchs. This result was not what Zhang Rang wanted to see. Otherwise, he wouldn't have talked to Yi Chun so regretfully. After hearing Zhang Rang's words, Yi Chun glanced at the groveling and regretful Zhang Rang, and then said with a smile, "Zhang Changshu, you don't have to be like this. You don't have to be so formal with me." Hearing this, Zhang Rang was overjoyed. Then he hurriedly bowed to Yi Chun and said loudly, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your understanding." When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded with a smile, then asked, "Yes, Zhang Changshu, are all the elixirs stored in this room spiritual elixirs?" In order to prevent Lu Buwei's poisoning plan from succeeding, Yi Chun deliberately took away all the 100-flower wine that had been poisoned by Lu Buwei from the secret vault of the palace. At that time, Yi Chun's spiritual sense had probed the secret vault of the palace, but he didn't find any elixirs. At first, Yi Chun thought that there were no elixirs in the secret vault of the palace, but later on, Yi Chun directly rejected this judgment. This was because it was impossible for the secret vault of the palace to have no elixirs. After all, the emperor of the Great Han, Lu Hong, still had concubines in his harem. Although they didn't take elixirs every day, they still took one or two from time to time. There was only one explanation for Yi Chun's spiritual sense not being able to find any elixirs. That was that there were some places in the secret vault that couldn't be explored by spiritual sense. Otherwise, Yi Chun wouldn't have asked Zhang Rang like this. When Yi Chun finished speaking, Zhang Rang immediately smiled flatteringly and then bowed. "Yes, Lord Yu of Beach, this is the vault where His Majesty stores the elixirs. However, if you want to get the elixirs, you still need an item." After saying this, Zhang Rang immediately took out a purple gold token from his bosom. Then, he walked in front of a dragon-shaped statue and placed the purple gold token in his hand into the dragon's mouth. At this moment, "Kacha, Kacha" sounds rang out. Then, they saw that the originally ordinary shelves began to deform. Soon, One drawer after another with a strong spirit chi was revealed. When Yichen saw this, he immediately understood why he didn't find any elixirs before. He didn't expect that in this era, there would be such a skilled craftsman who could actually fuse magic forbidden stones into wood and then create shelves. If the wood fused with magic forbidden stones was sealed, spiritual sense wouldn't be able to enter. Moreover, it could also seal the spirit chi of the elixir itself, preserving the elixir to the greatest extent. This point was nothing strange in the untainted world, but in the Three Kingdoms beginners area, or in the mortal world, it was different. Thinking of this, Yichen looked directly at Zhang Rang and asked, Zhang Changshi, what is the name of the person who made this shelf? After hearing Yichen's question, Zhang Rang was slightly taken aback. Then, he hurriedly bowed and said, Lord Yu of Beach, this shelf was made by a craftsman named Lu Ban. Lu Ban. No wonder. It was a pity that Lu Ban had passed away hundreds of years ago. Otherwise, he could try to subdue him. Thinking of this, Yichen's eyes flashed with a trace of disappointment. At this moment, Zhang Rang, who had been paying attention to Yichen's expression, suddenly thought of something. After carefully looking at Yichen, he asked, Lord Yu of Beach, do you need a top-notch craftsman? Zhang Changshi has such a talent in his hands. Yichen was slightly taken aback when he heard this, then asked. When Zhang Rang heard this, he immediately smiled flatteringly and bowed. Lord Yu of Beach, this servant doesn't have such a person in his hands, but this servant can get such a slave. Yes, a talent for Lord Yu of Beach. When Yichen heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. He then looked at Zhang Rang and asked, Really? After hearing Yichen's inquiry, Zhang Rang's smile suddenly became wider. Lord Yu of Beach, this servant doesn't dare to lie. As long as Lord Yu of Beach needs it, this servant guarantees that Lord Yu of Beach will get it for you. I'll take as many as you have, whether it's a physician, a blacksmith, or a carpenter, as long as it's an outstanding craftsman. This king will take them all. Yichen said with a laugh after hearing this. Any lord player would know the use of craftsmen. Yichen was also a lord, and he had reincarnated, so he naturally knew the importance of craftsmen. At first glance, it was a bit confusing. After all, these craftsmen wouldn't be of much use to Yichen, who would soon ascend. But one couldn't forget that these craftsmen were existences that could advance to higher-level professions. For example, a blacksmith could advance to a blacksmith, a physician could advance to an alchemist, a carpenter could advance to a machinist, and so on. It could be said that the craftsmen of the mortal world weren't completely useless. If they were carefully nurtured, after ascending to the primordial world, they would be able to shine and make great contributions to Yichen's samsara empire. Yichen wanted to wantonly recruit these top-notch craftsmen to prevent a large number of craftsmen, who were the lowest existences, from dying in large numbers after dawn, which was chaos. If that was really the case, it would be too much of a waste. It would be better to bring these craftsmen to the reincarnation immortal city in advance. Chapter 1171. As soon as Yichen finished his words, Zhang Rang smiled flatteringly and bowed. Rest assured, Your Excellency, I'll send people to bring all the talents you have beached to Samsara City. When Yichen heard this, he glanced at Zhang Rang, who was trying his best to please him. Then, he nodded and said, All right, I'll have to trouble you. Zhang Rang's smile widened when he heard Yichen's words. It's my good fortune to be able to work for you of Beach. You don't have to be so polite. Yichen laughed when he heard Zhang Rang's words, and then said, Zhang Rang and Zhang Rang are not outsiders. Secretary Zhang, you and I are not strangers. My achievements today were partly due to luck and partly due to my own abilities. As for the last 4%, it was all because of Secretary Zhang. You don't have to do this in the future. Otherwise, I will not be happy. Oh, you of Beach, I was wrong. I was wrong. I'll definitely treat you of Beach as one of my family. Zhang Rang's eyes lit up when he heard this, and then he said excitedly, if there was one thing that Yichen said that Zhang Rang liked the most, it would be the words, one of us. Now that Yichen said it, Zhang Rang was naturally excited. Of course, at the same time, he was relieved. Yi Chen nodded with a smile when he heard this, and then he looked straight at the spiritual herbs on the shelf. These spiritual herbs are the raw materials for 100 Flowers wine. Tell them to put them away. Zhang Rang was slightly stunned when he heard this. He didn't expect that Yi Chen would pack up all the spiritual herbs in Lu Hong's secret storehouse. After coming back to his senses, Zhang Rang nodded without hesitation and said, "Okay, I'll ask them to pack it up." Zhang Rang didn't know whether Yi Chen pocketed, but Zhang Rang knew that he couldn't refuse any of Yi Chen's requests. Otherwise, the good relationship they had just established would be greatly reduced. Zhang Rang didn't want to see such a result. After hearing Zhang Rang's words without hesitation, Yi Chen nodded with a smile and said, "Okay." Zhang Rang immediately bowed to Yi Chen and then left the storehouse. Not long after, Zhang Rang came in with a group of eunuchs. As soon as they entered the room, the little eunuchs bowed to Yi Chen and said, "Greetings, Lord Yu of Beach." Hearing this, Yi Chen nodded. At this moment, Zhang Rang came to Yi Chen's side, then turned to the eunuchs and scolded, "All of you, listen carefully. These spirit herbs are something that Lord Yu of Beach needs. When you collect them, be very careful. If even a leaf falls or a strand of hair is damaged, I'll take your worthless lives without Lord Yu of Beach doing anything." When the eunuchs heard this, they all trembled and hurriedly bowed. "Yes, Lord Personal Attendant." Zhang Rang nodded in satisfaction and then waved his hand, indicating that the eunuchs should start collecting the spirit herbs. The eunuchs bowed and then carefully began to collect the spirit herbs in the storehouse. Time passed by slowly. When the eunuchs had collected all the spirit herbs in the storehouse, an hour had passed. When Yi Chen, who had been waiting here, saw this, he immediately rose to his feet and put the mountain of wooden boxes into his small world. Glancing at the spirit herbs in the worldlet, Yi Chen nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. There were a total of 18,236 spirit herbs. Although many of them were duplicates and most of them had lost their vitality, there were at least 1,600 kinds of spirit herbs that had signs of life and could be replanted. When the worldlet grew up, these spirit herbs would be rejuvenated and become the main body of the spirit herb base. Finally, it would provide me with a steady stream of spirit herbs at that time. The Samsara Empire would have enough ability to train alchemists. Yi Chen had a worldlet that belonged exclusively to Yi Chen. As long as Yi Chen could develop the worldlet to a certain extent, he would be able to control the rules of time in it. Then, Yi Chen would be able to cultivate a large number of spirit herbs in a very short period of time. What's more, it would be a steady stream of spirit herbs that could be used for alchemy or cultivation. Otherwise, Yi Chen would not be so happy after confirming that there were more than 1,000 kinds of spirit herbs in the storehouse that could be replanted. After all, to train alchemists and maximize the effects of spirit herbs, it required a large supply of spirit herbs. Otherwise, it would only be empty talk. This welcoming banquet of Lu Hong was not a waste of time. Not only could he get a group of top craftsmen, but he could also get a pile of spirit herbs for free. Now that Lu Hong had nothing to do, the only thing left was to deal with the hidden forces and the person behind the scenes. Thinking of this, Yi Chen narrowed his eyes and a cold light flashed across them. At this moment, Zhang Rang, who had been staying here and watching the little eunuchs work, looked at Yi Chen with a flattering face and bowed. "You of Beach, Your Excellency, if it were any other time, I would definitely send you off. But now His Majesty values Baiwa wine very much. I must report back to His Majesty as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm afraid His Majesty will blame me and you of Beach. All right, I have to return to Samsara City as soon as possible. Let's part ways here." Yi Chen chuckled and nodded his head when he heard this. When Zhang Rang heard this, he nodded his head in a flattering manner. Then, he looked at a very clever young eunuch and said, "Lai Shi, send you of Beak Joff." "Yes, personal attendant." Hearing this, the little eunuch hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. After that, he looked at Yi Chen and bowed respectfully. "You of Beach, Your Excellency, This way, please." Hearing this, Yi Chen nodded and walked straight out of the door. Seeing this, the little eunuch hurriedly followed. They walked all the way until Yi Chen arrived at the gate of the imperial palace. The little eunuch stopped and bade farewell. Yi Chen walked directly to an empty corner. Then, with a thought, the space in front of him instantly distorted. Looking at the distorted space, Yi Chen stepped into it and disappeared. In Yangzhou City, above the Longxi restaurant, the space suddenly distorted. Then, a young man stepped out and appeared here. The young man was none other than Yi Chen, who came to Yangzhou after getting some benefits from the imperial palace. Glancing at the empty restaurant, Yi Chen used his divine senses and instantly contacted the slaves of the 3 members of the hidden forces. "How's it going?" As soon as Yi Chen asked, the slaves of the 3 members of the hidden forces in Yangzhou looked at the crowd around them and then transmitted their thoughts to each other. "Master, except for one force that hasn't come yet, the other forces that have contacted us have all arrived." Chapter 1172. When Yi Chen heard this, he immediately frowned. "This person who didn't come is most likely from the side of the mastermind who schemed against me. If it was any other hidden faction, they wouldn't be so cautious as for why they didn't come. It probably wasn't because they wanted to give up on the Nether Realm, but because they wanted to confirm that the Nether passageway could be opened before showing themselves. Since that was the case, when he thought of this, Yi Chen directly sent a voice transmission to the 3 slaves belonging to the hidden faction. "Take them to the 100-mile slope 50 kilometers west of the city and open the Nether passageway. At that time, you only need to make the action of opening the Nether passageway." The 3 slaves belonging to the hidden faction didn't have a Nether passage token, so they couldn't open the Nether passageway even if he asked them to. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't have given such an order. As soon as Yi Chen finished his voice transmission, the 3 slaves belonging to the hidden faction hurriedly sent a voice transmission through their minds. "Yes, Master. Longxi Restaurant, 1st floor hall." After the 3 slaves who had just finished replying to Yi Chen glanced at each other, the only female immediately took a step forward and then looked at all the representatives of the hidden factions in the hall. "Those who want to come are basically all here. Those who don't want to come or don't dare to come, don't wait. Otherwise, if you wait too long, it'll be easy for Yi Yu of Gojoseon to notice." As soon as the only female of the 3 slaves finished speaking, the representatives of the hidden factions in the hall glanced at each other and then nodded in unison. At this moment, a middle-aged man with a gloomy expression suddenly came before the woman and asked in a low voice, "Yuding, are you sure that the Nether Realm passageway can be opened by the 3 of you working together? If you can't, then you have to pay the price for this deception. The clan absolutely won't cover for you because of this." He was the woman's 3rd uncle. He had once been angry and scolded because the woman had privately released information without discussing it with the clan, saying that there was a way to enter the Nether Realm. In his opinion, this method should be exclusive to their clan and not made public. In this way, the benefits that could be obtained from the Nether Realm would be shared equally by the various clans. However, he couldn't refute the woman's conditions for opening the Nether Realm passageway. Even so, he still found it hard to believe. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that because of this news, the woman's status in the clan had risen out of nowhere. She had already firmly stepped on the middle-aged man's head. This seriously stimulated the middle-aged man's nerves. After all, the higher one's status was, the more resources one could enjoy. To be more precise, the middle-aged man's niece, one of Yi Chen's slaves, had stolen the cultivation resources that originally belonged to him. How could he be happy? It was precisely because of this that the middle-aged man suddenly said such a thing at this critical juncture. As for his goal, it was actually not complicated. To be more precise, it was to set up a trap and then ruthlessly trample on the woman. The middle-aged man was so confident because he had seen Yi Chen open the passage to the underworld when Yi Chen attacked the empire of Southeast Asia. Therefore, the middle-aged man had always believed that his good niece, one of Yi Chen's slaves, was lying. If she wasn't lying, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, if the woman really lied, it would be just as he wished. He would ruthlessly trample on the woman and then take back the cultivation resources that were originally allocated to him in the clan. As soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking, the three slaves belonging to the members of the hidden faction looked at each other, then looked at the middle-aged man in unison and said, "Since we said so, we naturally have confidence." As soon as the three of them finished speaking, the middle-aged man's expression changed. At this moment, one of Yichen's three slaves, the woman, directly looked at all the players in the hall who had come because of the Nether Realm and said, "It's the same as before. After the passage to the Nether Realm is opened, no matter what your harvest is, the three of us will take a tenth. If you dare to disobey, we can close the passage to the Nether Realm at any time." As soon as the woman finished speaking, all the players in the hall who had come because of the Nether Realm looked at each other and then nodded in unison. Okay. As soon as Yichen's three slaves heard this, they looked at each other and smiled, then said in unison, "In that case, follow us to the west of the city, the 100-mile slope." As soon as the three of them finished speaking, they walked out of the crowd and headed toward the city gate. In the sky, Yichen's divine sense enveloped the entire Longxi restaurant. When he saw this, he looked at the three slaves with some astonishment. Yichen didn't expect that, as the hosts of the parasitic soul bodies, they would cooperate so well in this matter that he couldn't see any flaws in it at all. These three people really know how to do things. It's a pity that if I don't intervene, their souls will eventually be devoured by the parasitic soul bodies and then completely die. I'll see how they perform in the future. If it's possible, I can make their souls indestructible and let them enter the 6 paths of reincarnation again. Thinking of this, Yichen glanced at the members of the hidden faction on the ground. Then, with a thought, the space in front of him instantly distorted. After glancing at the distorted space, Yichen stepped into it and disappeared. In the west of Yangzhou City, the 100-mile slope, 10,000 meters above, the space suddenly distorted. Then, Yichen stepped out and appeared there. Once the passageway to the netherworld is opened, the person behind the scenes who schemed against me should take action. Thinking of this, Yichen coldly smiled and looked at the ground. Time slowly passed. Yichen's three slaves soon led a group of over 1 million players to the 100-mile slope. Looking at the number of players on the ground, a cold, killing intent flashed in Yichen's eyes. With so many people coming at once, he just didn't know if the Mastermind's clan members were hiding among them. If they weren't, then the clansmen sent by the Mastermind should be nearby or not far away. Thinking of this, Yichen's divine sense moved and instantly locked onto the area within 1,000 miles. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea passed, Yichen immediately frowned. Apart from this group of people, there was no one else was the Mastermind hiding among this group of people or hadn't come yet. Wait a bit. Just as Yichen thought of this, the female slave suddenly contacted Yichen. "Master, should we open the underworld passage now? Everyone is here." After hearing the female slave's voice, Yichen immediately returned to his senses and said, "Open it. The three of you just need to pretend." "Yes, master." Hearing this, the female slave hurriedly replied. After saying this, she looked at the other 2 slaves. After exchanging glances, the 3 of them walked to an open space on a small hill and pretended to take something out of their interspatial spaces. In the next second, the 3 of them raised their hands and clenched their fists. Then they shouted in unison, "Open!" Just as the 3 of them finished speaking, Yichen, who was 10,000 meters above the white clouds, directly used the underworld passage token. At the same time, a pitch-black whirlpool appeared in the middle of the 3 slaves. At this moment, an undetectable spatial fluctuation suddenly appeared in the crowd. 10,000 meters above the white clouds, Yichen, who was releasing his divine sense, suddenly opened his eyes. If nothing unexpected happened, then the people who were about to be transferred over should be the clansmen of the Mastermind. Chapter 1173. Thinking of this, Yichen split a portion of his divine sense and locked onto the area where the spatial fluctuation occurred. At this moment, 5 inconspicuously dressed players suddenly appeared in that area. The moment they appeared, the players in the area bowed to the 5 of them in unison. Yichin narrowed his eyes when he saw this. It's them. Just as Yichin thought up to this point, the players who saw the black vortex widened their eyes in shock. Then, they started shouting excitedly. Ha ha! It's this black vortex! It's exactly the same as the black vortex that appeared when Yi Chun attacked the Empire of Southeast Asia. Damn, it's really the Netherrealm passage. This is great. Not only can we get a lot of good stuff, but we can also catch up to Yi Chun quickly. That's right. Why don't you think about what kind of world that is? It's the Netherrealm. It's a higher level world than the one we're in now. If we go there, we can get some good stuff that can make us stronger quickly. What are we waiting for? Let's go in. The members of the various hidden forces that have been attracted by the Netherrealm were discussing and shouting with each other. They were all excited and agitated. At the same time, a middle-aged man among the 5 players who had just appeared glanced at the 3 people who had opened the Netherrealm passage. Then, he looked at the other 4 people and said, Remember to inject them. Remember, the first thing you need to do is to inject the forbidden energy into their bodies. Okay, the 4 people nodded in unison when they heard this. Then, they quietly walked toward Yi Chen's 3 slaves. 10,000 meters in the sky, Yi Chun, who was above the clouds, smiled coldly when he heard this. Money moved people's hearts, and benefits blinded the eyes. No matter how much the mastermind schemed, he still couldn't escape from this, however. It's fortunate that he was greedy. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for me to catch him. Thinking up to this point, Yi Chun used his mind to imprison the millions of players on the ground. If it was in the past, or if it was an ordinary, transcending tribulation cultivator, they might not be able to do it. But since it was Yi Chun, it wasn't difficult at all. One must know that Yi Chen's spirit sense was already on par with an Earth immortal. It was too easy for him to control millions of mortals who weren't even mortal evolution states. The moment Yi Chun imprisoned the millions of members of the hidden forces on the ground, everyone was stunned. Then, their expressions changed. What's going on? Why can't I move? CK me too, and I can't even log off. Someone is controlling us. It must be. Otherwise, it's impossible for it to be immobile. Mother of could it be Yi Chun? No way. He can open the tunnel to the Netherrealm himself. There's no need for him to come here and stop us, right? Don't forget that the Netherrealm is a world that even Yi of Gojosian had to leave as soon as possible. There must be a lot of good stuff there. If we just go in like this, Yi of Gojosian won't be happy. What should we do? The players from the hidden forces spoke one after another about the fear in their hearts. As for the 5 players who had just been teleported over by Yi Chun, their faces turned deathly pale in an instant. At the same time, large beads of cold sweat involuntarily appeared on their foreheads. Then they flowed down their cheeks and dripped down, instantly drenching their long robes. In the sky, Yi Chun, who had imprisoned millions of players with his spirit sense, twitched his mouth in disdain when he saw this. Then he flew straight to the ground. The moment Yi Chun landed, the millions of players of the hidden forces who wanted to enter the Netherrealm narrowed their eyes. They had no choice but to do so because Yi Chun, the #1 player in the East, the strongest player in the world, had really come. Yi of Gojosian, I just want to go to the Netherrealm to take a look. I have never thought of being your enemy. Really, I swear. Yi of Gojosian, if you don't want us to enter the Netherrealm, we promise to leave immediately and never think of entering the Netherrealm again. Please let us go. Yi of Gojosian, spare our lives. I have never thought of scheming against you, nor have I disobeyed your orders. You said in the Empire of Southeast Asia not to let us enter the tunnel, but you didn't say that you wouldn't let us enter the Netherrealm from other places. The players of the hidden forces spoke one after another. It was a lively scene. It couldn't be helped. Yi Chun was definitely not here for a stroll. He was definitely here for the tunnel to the Netherrealm. As for these people who wanted to enter the Netherrealm through the tunnel, if they didn't beg for mercy or explain themselves, it would be too late when Yi Chen took action. Looking at the noisy players, Yi Chen smiled coldly and waved his right hand. With a buzzing sound, the dark vortex instantly shrunk and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. The millions of players of the hidden forces who wanted to enter the Nether Realm couldn't help but swallow their saliva when they saw this. Gulp, gulp. Previously, they might have hoped that Yi Chen wasn't here for the tunnel to the Nether Realm, but for someone else. Now, they didn't think so anymore. Damn it, he closed the tunnel to the Nether Realm as soon as he arrived. If he wasn't here for the tunnel to the Nether Realm, then what was he here for? Just as the players of the hidden forces were trembling in fear, Yi Chen raised his right hand and made a grabbing motion in the air. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 5 sounds pierced through the air. Then, 5 inconspicuous players flew in front of Yi Chen in an instant. Hurry up and kill us! The middle-aged man among the 5 instantly screamed out in a panic. When Yi Chen heard this, his eyes narrowed fiercely. Damn it, this family actually has a remote monitoring device. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's violent divine sense in his mind instantly surged. Then, it rushed straight to the middle-aged man's head. In the blink of an eye, it rushed in. Soul search. As soon as Yi Chen's words fell, the middle-aged man's eyes froze. Then he saw his body shaking wildly. During the process of soul search, it was fine if he didn't resist. Once he resisted, he would have to endure pain that went deep into his soul. The middle-aged man's performance clearly belonged to the resisting party. Unfortunately, this resistance was powerless in the face of Yi Chen's violent divine sense. After a few breaths, Yi Chen retracted his divine sense. At this moment, because Yi Chen had imprisoned them, they couldn't go offline or move. Suddenly, they turned into spots of light and disappeared without a trace. This was the result of a player dying in the real world. Yi Chen, who had been reborn, had seen this happen many times in his previous life. They were really ruthless. If something went wrong, they would directly take action in the real world. Unfortunately, it was too late. Chapter 1174. Thinking of this, Yi Chen smiled coldly. Then, he looked at the millions of hidden faction members who were imprisoned in place and shouted, "If you don't want to die, don't open your eyes. If you don't want to die, open your mind. Otherwise, I'll kill you without mercy." What Yi Chen was about to do was very simple. He was going to continue the soul search. To be more precise, Yi Chen was going to browse through the memories of these millions of players. This way, Yi Chen would be able to filter out the hidden factions who were hostile to him or wanted to scheme against him. After that, Yi Chen would go on a killing spree. As for those hidden factions who were purely trying to enter the Nether Realm, Yi Chen wasn't going to do anything to them. After all, they didn't go against Yi Chen, nor did they scheme against Yi Chen. Against such existences, no matter how cruel, ruthless, and murderous Yi Chen was, he wouldn't kill them casually. This was Yi Chen's principle of doing things, and he wouldn't change it casually. As soon as Yi Chen said this, the members of the hidden factions who came here because of the Nether Realm were all stunned. Just as they didn't understand why Yi Chen said this, Yi Chen's enormous consciousness began to soul search on the millions of players. At this moment, the thought of having their secret exposed involuntarily appeared in the hearts of all the members of the hidden factions. This was the natural reaction of those who were subjected to the soul-searching secret technique when soul-searching was performed. At this moment, the players of the hidden factions finally understood why Yi Chen had said that just now. After a brief moment of shock, many players gave up resisting and allowed Yi Chen to search the memories in their souls. Meanwhile, another group of 200,000 players instantly exploded with a bang. Obviously, these people were the subordinates of the mastermind. Otherwise, they wouldn't have self-destructed the moment Yi Chen's soul-searching secret technique. At the same time, the members of the hidden factions who didn't give up resisting let out miserable howls in unison. The screams of hundreds of thousands of people caused the air to buzz. After 10 minutes, Yi Chen opened his eyes and looked coldly at the members of the hidden forces who had not given up resisting. "All of you die. The moment Yi Chen's cold words, which were filled with killing intent, landed on the ground, the dark and thick Godslayer appeared out of thin air and shook. Buzz! In the next second, the thick black Godslayer turned into a black light and disappeared in a flash. At the same time, the sound of bodies being penetrated rang out continuously. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. Without exception, the players who did not give up resisting were all pierced through by the god-killing spear and had their souls devoured. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the Godslayer returned to Yi Chen's side and disappeared. At this moment, an incomparably dense series of explosions rang out. Pung, pung, pung. Without exception, the members of the hidden factions who had been pierced through by the Godslayer exploded into pieces. At this moment, a strong smell of blood appeared in the air and spread out with the wind. The players who had not been executed by Yi Chen shuddered when they saw this scene. At this moment, Yi Chen glanced at the players who had not been executed. Then, with a thought, the space in front of him was instantly distorted. In the next second, Yi Chen stepped into it and disappeared. In the main hall of the Castellan's mansion in Reincarnation Immortal City, the space was suddenly distorted. Then, Yi Chen appeared in the hall. When the maids saw Yi Chen, they were stunned for a moment. Then, they hurriedly bowed and greeted Yi Chen. "Greetings, Lord Yu of Beach." When Yi Chen heard the greetings of the maids, he nodded and waved his right hand. Then the space was instantly distorted. Return to the city. As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, the 100 soldiers of the Samsara Legion who had followed Yi Chen to Reincarnation City led their horses out of the distorted space one after another. When the last person walked out of the distorted space, Yi Chen said, "Gather the Samsara Legion. Gather the Samsara Legion and have them stand by outside." "Yes, my lord." When the soldiers of the Samsara Legion heard this, their eyes lit up. Then, they hurriedly bowed and left the Castellan's mansion. At this moment, Yi Chen used his divine consciousness and instantly contacted Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the other generals. Then, he shouted, "Come here. I have a task for you." As soon as Yi Chen's voice fell, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals who had just sat down and were about to drink to celebrate their victory were all stunned. Then, they hurriedly bowed to Yi Chen and said, "Yes, my lord." After 10 minutes, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals, as well as the 510,000 soldiers of the Samsara Legion, arrived outside the Castellan's mansion. When Yi Chen, who had released his divine consciousness, saw this, he directly shouted, "Come with me to that world." "Yes, my lord." When Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and Gan Ning heard this, they were stunned again and hurriedly bowed. Hearing this, Yi Chen nodded. Then, with a thought, he went offline. When Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals, as well as the 510,000 soldiers of the Samsara Legion, saw this, they hurriedly went offline and disappeared without a trace in just a few breaths. In the real world, in the main hall of the Castellan's mansion in Samsara City, the door of the Diamond Gray game cabin suddenly opened with a creak. Then, Yi Chen stood up in the Diamond Gray game cabin. In the next second, a golden ball of light suddenly appeared in the void. Then, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba appeared one after another. At the same time, 510,000 golden balls of light lit up on the streets of Samsara City. Then, the Samsara Legion appeared on the streets of Samsara City. At this moment, a strong aura of weapons appeared on the streets of Samsara City and then soared into the sky. On the city wall, Zhou Tsang, who was in charge of guarding Samsara City, was stunned when he saw the Samsara Legion suddenly appear in Samsara City. At this moment, the deputy general next to Zhou Tsang said with a dumbfounded expression, "General, this seems to be the Lords. Samsara Legion, it's them. It seems that the Lord is going to attack the outside world," Zhou Tsang said after he heard the deputy general's words. It would be great if we could also participate in the war, the deputy general said with emotion. When Zhou Tsang heard this, he glared at the deputy general and said, "If you want to go, I can recommend you to the Lord." "Please don't, General. I'm just saying, being able to defend this world is the result of the accumulated merits of my ancestors. I don't want to change places." When the deputy general heard this, his face froze. Then he smiled and said, when Zhou Tsang heard the deputy general's words, he rolled his eyes at him. "What are you envious of? Don't forget that our Lord's real body is in this city. Moreover, the mistresses are also here. Others can't come even if they want to." Chapter 1175. As soon as Zhou Tsang finished speaking, the deputy general laughed awkwardly and nodded seriously. General is right. This general knows his mistake. In the backyard of the city lord's mansion, the flaming tiger Yi Lin, who was chatting with Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kaiyin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yuing, Empress Hari, and the other girls, was suddenly stunned. Then she said with incomparable surprise, "Big brother is back." Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kaiyin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yuing, Zhen Mi, the five sisters, Philos Aureus, and the little lowly Empress Hari were all stunned when they heard this. Then they saw that their faces revealed joyful smiles at the same time. The girls knew that Yi Chun had gone abroad to fight and couldn't come to the real world. Now that Yi Chun had returned, it was naturally because the war was over. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to go offline. Just as the girls were excited and wanted to go to the hall in the front yard to find Yi Chun, the flaming tiger, Yi Lin, suddenly froze and said, "Big Brother's subordinates are all here." The generals under Big Brother's command all followed along, as well as Big Brother's Cycle Legion. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kaiyin, Mi Zhen, and the other girls who had also reached the Purple Mansion realm but didn't release their divine senses were all stunned. Then, one by one, they released their divine senses. In the next second, the girls looked at each other and then sat down one by one. At this moment, the little lowly Empress Hari, who especially wanted to see Yi Chun, glanced at the girls and then asked in confusion, "Sisters, you're back." "Sisters, our husband is back. Why aren't you going to welcome him?" After hearing Empress Hari's question, Zhao Yu smiled. Then she hugged Empress Hari and kissed him. "Although my husband is back, he still has important things to deal with. Let's not disturb him for the time being. Let's wait for him here, okay?" "Yes." The little lowly Empress Hari nodded without hesitation and said, in the hall of the city lord's mansion in Samsara City. As soon as Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals appeared, they bowed and saluted Yi Chun, who had just exited the diamond-level game cabin. "Greetings, my lord." When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded and said, "That's right. Later, I will open a space tunnel. Each of you will be responsible for one of them. After you pass through, kill everyone you see, regardless of whether they are men or women." "Yes, my lord." When Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals heard this, their faces turned solemn. They bowed and saluted loudly. Yi Chun was their lord. Yi Chun's orders were everything. Whether it was Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Zhang Fei, or Guan Yu, the other generals, they would not hesitate or question his orders. There was only one thing they had to do, and that was to completely carry out Yi Chun's orders. Even if they had to kill everyone in the world, they would not be soft-hearted. This had nothing to do with humanity, because they were Yi Chun's subordinates and were loyal to Yi Chun. Even if Yi Chun's decision was wrong, they would unswervingly carry it out. What's more, Yi Chun's decision was not wrong. If there was someone to blame, it was these hidden factions that Yi Chun had discovered. Each of them was accumulating strength and plotting against Yi Chun. Some had already taken action, while others had not yet begun. Regardless of which, a scheme was a scheme. Yi Chun would not be soft-hearted and let them off just because they had not taken action. After hearing his subordinates' words, Yi Chun nodded in satisfaction. He waved his right hand, and a dozen spatial distortions instantly appeared in the hall. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huangzhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals saw this and bowed to Yi Chun. Then, they turned and entered the spatial distortions, disappearing from sight. Glancing at the place where his subordinates had disappeared, Yi Chun smiled faintly. He then left the hall, exited the residence, and arrived on the main street. "Greetings, my lord." The 510,000 soldiers of the Samsara Legion knelt on one knee and greeted Yi Chun loudly when they saw him. Hearing this, Yi Chun nodded his head. He then waved his right hand, causing 102 distorted spaces to appear on the street. After glancing at the spatial distortions on the main street, Yi Chun looked straight at the soldiers of the Samsara Legion and shouted, "Everyone, form a group. Each of you will choose a passage to enter. After you pass through, flatten all the cities you see. Kill everyone in the cities." "Yes, my lord." When the soldiers of the Samsara Legion heard this, their expressions turned solemn and they shouted in unison. In the next second, the soldiers of the Samsara Legion got up and quickly divided themselves into 102 groups of guards. They then rushed toward the 102 spatial distortions. After 10 minutes, the soldiers of the Samsara Legion disappeared from the main street of Samsara City. When Yi Chun saw this, he took a deep breath and exhaled deeply. It was time to find the mastermind behind the scenes, Elder Yun. When he thought of this, Yi Chun used his mind, and the spatial distortion in front of him instantly occurred. After glancing at the distorted spatial distortion, Yi Chun stepped into it and disappeared. Crouching Dragon Mountain was a mountain that appeared after the meteor fell and the terrain changed. It was originally nameless, but someone gave it a name. In the main hall at the top of Crouching Dragon Mountain, Elder Yun, who used to be calm and collected, suddenly changed his expression after hearing the report of a man in black. He then shouted, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" The man in black, who was reprimanded by Elder Yun, shuddered and then hurriedly lowered his head and said, Elder Yun, you live alone at the top of the mountain. If you want to send the news over, we have to climb the mountain. We have wasted time on this." When the white-haired Elder Yun heard this, he was stunned and then involuntarily stumbled before sitting down on a chair. After a brief moment of regret, Elder Yun hurriedly looked at the man in black and said, "Hurry back. Tell them to use the teleportation formation immediately and leave this place." "Yes, Elder Yun." When the man in black heard this, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly bowed. After he finished speaking, he hurriedly left the main hall at the top of the mountain. At this moment, Elder Yun glanced at the departing man in black and then said in a low voice, "Yi Chun, EU of Gojoseon, what a good one." They actually controlled 3 clans without a sound. However, I haven't lost yet. At this point, Elder Yun glanced at the sky outside the main hall and then muttered, "Don't blame me for not being able to leave. Don't blame me for being ruthless. The Yun family can't do without me." At this point, Elder Yun's body suddenly glowed with a black light. Then, the white-haired Elder Yun suddenly became more than 50 years younger, turning into a young man in his 20s. At the same time, an aura that was completely different from Elder Yun's appeared from his body. Looking at his transformed body, the young man nodded in satisfaction. "It's time to leave." As soon as the young man finished speaking, an extremely cold voice instantly sounded. "Where do you want to go?" Chapter 1176. Hearing this, the young man's expression changed. At this moment, Yi Chun took a step forward and appeared here. Yi Chun, Elder Yun, who had turned into a young man, said in shock as his eyes narrowed. Hearing Elder Yun's cry of surprise, Yi Chun smiled coldly. He waved his right hand, and the thick black Godslayer appeared in his right hand. Seeing this, the young man's body stiffened, but he quickly regained his composure. In the next second, Elder Yun hurriedly bowed and said, "Yu of Gojoseon, the person you're looking for has already gone down the mountain. He's been poisoned by me. Please go after him. Otherwise, he'll leave through the transportation formation." "Idiot!" Yi Chun smiled coldly. Without hesitation, he stabbed the Godslayer in his right hand at Elder Yun. With a poochie sound, the pitch-black and thick God-killing spear instantly pierced through the heart of Elder Yun, who had turned into a young man, and then appeared from his back. At the same time, Elder Yun's body suddenly shone with a black light. Then, Elder Yun, who had been stabbed by the God-Slayer, turned into a cloud of black smoke and dissipated with the wind. Substitute spell. No, it was a substitute tool, not a bad trump card. Unfortunately, where can you run to? Thinking of this, Yi Chen smiled coldly. Then, with a thought, he released his powerful and violent divine sense. In an instant, it covered an area of 2 million miles. In the next second, Yi Chen raised the God-Slayer in his right hand and stabbed at the void. In that instant, the tip of the God-Slayer pierced through the distorted space. Then, there was a poochie sound. At the same time, at the foot of Crouching Dragon Mountain, Elder Yun, who had suddenly appeared at the transportation formation in Crouching Dragon City, was pierced through by the God-Slayer that had emerged from the distorted space. The disciples of the Yun family, who had just arrived at the transportation formation, were all stunned when they saw this. Then, they suddenly heard a cry of surprise. This is Yi Chen's gun. Yi Chen is already here? A middle-aged woman shuddered when she heard this. Then, she shouted in surprise. When a fat middle-aged man heard this, he glanced at the thick black God-Slayer's tip and then tried his best to steady his suddenly beating heart. In the next second, he circulated his chi and roared, "Quick, hurry up and enter the teleportation array. We have to leave this place immediately. Great-grandpa doesn't know about this yet. We have to inform Great-grandpa." A young man suddenly thought of something and hurriedly shouted. When the plump middle-aged man heard this, he rushed straight to the teleportation array and shouted, "Brother, I'm sorry. I've already sent someone to inform him. Furthermore, he has plenty of life-saving trump cards. We don't have to worry about him. What we need to do now is to use the teleportation array to leave this place quickly. Otherwise, we'll all be killed by Yi Chen." As soon as the plump middle-aged man finished speaking, the members of the Yun clan hurriedly rushed toward the teleportation array. In the main hall at the top of Crouching Dragon Mountain, Yi Chen, who had released his consciousness, curled his lips in disdain when he saw the situation near the Yun clan's teleportation array. "You want to use this to attract my attention? You're dreaming." Elder Yun, who had just turned into a young man, had used a substitute prop to appear directly at the Yun clan's teleportation array and attracted Yi Chen's pursuit. It seemed like Elder Yun wanted to use the teleportation array, but in reality, that wasn't the case. Yes, it was because Yi Chen wouldn't pursue him. He would really use the teleportation array. Instead, it was because after Yi Chen chased after Old Yun, a portion of his attention would be drawn away by the people of the Yun clan. Under these circumstances, whether Yi Chen would continue to pursue Elder Yun or prevent the Yun clan, which had more people, from escaping depended on Yi Chen's choice. If Yi Chen continued to pursue Elder Yun, the Yun clan would have a chance to escape. Although this outcome wasn't what Elder Yun wanted to see, he wouldn't be able to do anything about it if it really happened. However, in Elder Yun's opinion, Yi Chen, who had already identified the mastermind behind the scenes, should choose the Yun clan and not him. After all, this was the most logical choice. Unfortunately, Elder Yun, who had turned into a young man and changed his aura, had overlooked something. Other people might have had to choose between the two, but Yi Chen didn't have to do that. As a matter of fact, before Yi Chen had arrived here, he had already locked onto the Yun clan, including Elder Yun, who had used some kind of secret technique to become younger. Currently, Yi Chen's divine sense had covered an area of 2 million li. Under these circumstances, the Yun clan and Elder Yun wouldn't be able to escape Yi Chen's notice, no matter how many trump cards they had. At this thought, Yi Chen shifted his consciousness, and a thunderous roar instantly sounded from the sky above Wulong City. At the same time, Yi Chen pulled out the God-Slayer in his right hand and stabbed it again. The tip of the God-Slayer pierced the suddenly distorted space again. 3,000 miles to the south of Wulong Mountain, in a dark cave, Elder Yun, who had just appeared, was pierced through the heart by the God-Slayer once again. You actually chose me." As soon as Elder Yun's unwilling words fell, the body of the God-Slayer shook. At the same time, the God-Slayer flashed and swallowed Elder Yun's soul. At the same time, Hundreds of thousands of lightning bolts as thick as water tanks fell from the sky above Wulong City. Boom, boom, boom. After a series of explosions, Wulong City was razed to the ground. The Yun clan and the players under the Yun clan were all killed on the spot without exception. Yi Chun released his divine sense and covered an area of 2 million miles. At this point, his divine sense swept over Wulong City and Elder Yun's corpse. After confirming that there were no signs of life, Yi Chun curled his lips in disdain. Trash! How dare you try to scheme against me without accumulating sufficient strength? You must really be tired of living, Zhang Xian thought to himself. Luckily, these idiots jumped out so early. Otherwise, I would have to waste a lot of time later. At this thought, Yi Chun raised his left hand and grabbed at the air. In the next second, Yi Chun grabbed a storage bag from the air. This was Elder Yun's storage bag. I wonder what's inside. At this thought, Yi Chun shifted his consciousness and sent his divine sense into the storage bag. In the next second, Yi Chun couldn't help but be stunned. At this thought, Yi Chun's left hand, which was holding the storage bag, shook. Then, a black jar with a ghost face carved on it suddenly appeared in front of Yi Chun. This is the devouring demon jar. At this thought, Yi Chun's eyes widened. Holy shit, why did the devouring demon jar appear here? Chapter 1177. In Yi Chun's previous life, the heaven-devouring demon pot had appeared in the Eldritch world. Furthermore, it was after Empress Hari had grown up from a lowly. But now, the black, ghost-faced jar that Yi Chun had taken out from Elder Yun's storage bag was the real heaven-devouring demon pot. Otherwise, why would Yi Chun be so surprised? Others might not be able to tell that the devouring demon pot was unusual, let alone its origin. However, Yi Chun, who had used it in his previous life, could easily recognize it. Even if he didn't use his spiritual sense or Fa Li to activate it, he would still be able to recognize it. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that the heaven-devouring demon pot had appeared on Earth and was in Yi Chun's hands. Damn, my luck is really out of this world. I actually managed to get the heaven-devouring demon pot so quickly. The heaven-devouring demon pot was related to Empress Hari. Just this fact alone was enough to make Yi Chun excited. If the heaven-devouring demon pot could also release the seal on Empress Hari, who was only a few years old, then it would be hard for Yi Chun not to be excited. Not bad, not bad. When he returned, he would release the seal on Nana's body and let her become the real Empress Hari directly. Thinking of this, Yi Chun could not help but smirk. Then, with a thought, he stored the heaven-devouring demon pot in his small dimension. Looking at the heaven-devouring demon pot in his small dimension, Yi Chun smiled slightly. Then, with a thought, he released his divine sense and instantly scanned the main hall at the top of Crouching Dragon Mountain. In the next second, Yi Chun looked directly at the futon that Elder Yun had been sitting on previously. If not for my powerful divine sense, I would have missed this place. Thinking of this, Yi Chun walked over to the futon that Elder Yun often sat on. Then he stabbed the Godslayer in his right hand into the bottom of the futon. Pucci, the Godslayer easily pierced through the praying mat and stabbed into the ground. In the next second, Yi Chun held Godslayer's right hand and drew a circle in the air. Then he flicked it with force. With a bang, a stone slab the size of a round table was lifted up by the Godslayer. Just as the stone slab the size of a round table flew out of the hall, a pitch-black hole appeared. Yi Chun took a look at the pitch-black cave entrance and flew straight in. After that, he arrived at a long tunnel. Walking forward, Yi Chun soon arrived in front of a stone door. Glancing at the stone gate, which was embossed with a divine dragon, Knight Chariot twitched his mouth scornfully. It was just a forbidden magic stone. Why did he have to carve a divine dragon on it? Thinking of this, Yi Chun raised his left hand and made several strokes in the air. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After a few buzzing sounds, dozens of spatial blades appeared in an instant and sliced straight at the stone gate made of forbidden magic stone. Slash, slash, slash. The stone gate was sliced into nearly 100 pieces in an instant. Glancing at the stone gate that had been sliced into nearly 100 pieces, Yi Chun waved his left hand. A violent gust of air appeared, and the stone gate that had been sliced into nearly 100 pieces flew out in an instant. In the next second, an underground secret room made entirely of forbidden magic stone appeared before Yi Chun's eyes. Glancing at the empty underground secret room, Yi Chun frowned. Damn it, why was there nothing here? No, there had to be something very important here. Otherwise, the Yin clan wouldn't have spent so much effort to create an underground secret room made entirely of forbidden magic stone. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's mind moved, and his tyrannical consciousness probed the underground secret room. A few seconds later, Yi Chun's eyes widened. Damn it, I knew it. The Yin clan wouldn't have spent so much effort to create an empty underground secret room. Thinking of this, Yi Chun walked directly into the underground secret room made entirely of forbidden magic stone. After arriving at the left wall of the underground secret room, Yi Chun stabbed the Godslayer into the wall with his right hand. Poochie! The Godslayer stabbed into the wall effortlessly. At the same time, Yi Chun's right hand, which was holding the Godslayer, shook violently. With a buzzing sound, the originally intact wall instantly turned into fine powder and scattered on the ground. At this moment, a small secret room that could only fit one person and a blue whirlpool appeared before Yi Chun's eyes. Secret realm. He wondered what good things the Yin clan had spent so much effort to hide in this secret realm. Thinking of this, Yi Chun walked directly to the entrance of the secret realm and stepped in. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. After a brief moment of dizziness, Yi Chun opened his eyes and was stunned. This is where Yi Chun was. There was no sky or earth. There was only an endless sky of stars. That's right, it was an endless sky of stars. To be more precise, Yi Chun was in the middle of a starry sky. Under Yi Chun's feet was a constantly rotating azure planet. This can't be the starry sky. If it was the starry sky, although I wouldn't die immediately, my body would definitely be affected by the near vacuum of the universe. The blood, gas, and sweat in my body would all be automatically released. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's eyes narrowed. This is a star map. That's right, it's a star map. Holy shit, I didn't expect the Yun clan to have something like this. Thinking up to this point, Yi Chun's eyes instantly lit up. What was the use of the starry sky chart? At present, it was useless for anyone other than Yi Chun to obtain it. Because no matter who it was, they didn't have the ability to travel the universe. Even Yi Chun was the same. But this was only for now. If Yi Chun became an immortal, it would be a different situation. To be more precise, as long as he became an immortal, he would be able to ignore the near vacuum of the universe. Then, he would be able to travel freely in the universe. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that once he had the ability to travel the universe, he would be able to find life planets in the universe. This point was only discovered by the players in the year before Yi Chun's death in his previous life. Then, they paid attention to it and finally put it into action. This was because as long as they found a life planet, it was equivalent to having the possibility of evolving into a Daluo Jinxian. This was a little different from the normal way of evolving into a Daluo Jinxian. This method was different, but even so, as long as they succeeded, they would be a true Daluo Jinxian. As for the method, it was very simple. They just had to find a life planet and refine it into their Dantian. This was something that Yi Chun and the group of people who were lucky enough to become a golden immortal in his previous life had done. Unfortunately, no one succeeded. The universe was too big. It was so big that it was beyond imagination. Even if one became an immortal in the face of the universe, he was just a small existence. And it was easier said than done to find a life planet in the universe. After that, the star map was discovered by the players. Then, it attracted the attention of all the players who had reached the golden immortal level. Unfortunately, the star maps that were found by the players were very scattered. Some of the star maps didn't belong to the Milky Way at all. Even if they had it, it was useless. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Yi Chun was looking at the star map now. Moreover, it was a star map with the Milky Way as the center. It expanded outward to thousands of galaxies. This could be easily seen from the constantly rotating blue planet under Yi Chen's feet. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Yi Chen could seize a life planet in advance and not give others the opportunity to evolve into a Daluo Jinxian so easily. Of course, Yi Chen's Devour the Stars plan that he had previously set would also be implemented more precisely because of the star map. Chapter 1178. Damn it. This trip to eliminate the trouble was not in vain. Not only was the problem solved, but he also obtained the heaven-devouring demon pot and the star map. At this thought, Yi Chen couldn't help but smirk. Then, with a thought, he released his divine sense, which was comparable to an Earth Immortal's. In the next second, Yi Chen made a grabbing motion in the void, and the entire starry sky disappeared. Then, a blue sphere with sparkling starlight appeared and flew straight towards Yi Chen. Slap! Yi Chen grabbed the blue sphere, shining with starlight. After taking a look at it, he put it into his small world. Now that he had the star map, it was time to go back. Wait, he still hadn't found the item that the Yun clan used to cast the soul puppet spell. At this thought, Yi Chen made a mental command, and the space in front of him twisted. Glancing at the twisted space, Yi Chen stepped into it and disappeared. Above the ruins of Crouching Dragon City, the space suddenly twisted. Then, Yi Chen stepped out and appeared here. Looking at the ruins of Crouching Dragon City, which was covered in billowing smoke and black smoke, Yi Chen's divine sense immediately enveloped the ruins. A few seconds later, Yi Chen raised his right hand and made a grabbing motion. Boom! There was a loud noise. A stone statue with a ghost head and a human body, with a mouth full of sharp teeth, broke through the ruins and flew into the sky. His guess was correct. The Yin clan used the soul puppet spell not with a one-time use item, but with this evil ghost stone statue. When Yi Chen noticed that the people who had plotted against him had been hit by the soul puppet spell, his first thought was that the Yin clan had someone who knew the soul puppet spell. However, Yi Chen quickly rejected this idea. This was because the soul puppet spell required one to be at least in the Purple Mansion realm to cast it. No one in the Yun clan could satisfy this requirement. After that, Yi Chen thought that the Yun clan had a tool for soul puppetry. However, this idea was rejected by Yi Chen after he used Soul Search on millions of players in the game world, and hundreds of thousands of them self-destructed. That was because too many people had self-destructed. It wasn't that there weren't any single-use items with Soul Puppet, but there definitely weren't that many. Otherwise, there would have been similar rumors in Yi Chen's previous life. Therefore, there was only one conclusion. The Yun clan had a special treasure that could perform Soul Puppet. Now, the appearance of the evil spirit stone statue confirmed Yi Chen's deduction. Although this thing was useful, it had many restrictions. The person who used it had to sell their soul to the ghost race, and the person who was put into the soul puppet technique would have their soul taken away by the ghost race after death. The Yun clan was indeed one of the hidden powers. They were ruthless to others and to their own people. Just as Yi Chen thought of this, an extremely mournful roar suddenly came from the evil ghost stone statue flying into the sky. Then, it directly exploded in midair. Roar! Hearing this, Yi Chen smiled coldly and looked directly at the evil spirit stone statue that suddenly stopped in midair. Even if I don't kill you, you will still be devoured by the ghost race. But even so, I won't let you live. Thinking of this, Yi Chen flicked his finger at the evil spirit stone statue that was floating in midair and rapidly expanding. There was a buzzing sound and a pure, white fireball instantly appeared. Then, it expanded with the wind and became a huge fireball with a diameter of 10 meters. In the next second, the huge fireball formed by the Grand Sun Primordial fire crashed into the evil spirit stone statue. There was a loud bang, and the evil spirit stone statue instantly exploded. Then, it was set ablaze by the Grand Sun Primordial fire. The moment the dense sound of burning sounded, a large amount of black gas flew up from the broken stone statue and dissipated into the air. At this moment, an extremely shrill scream suddenly sounded. Roar! The scream was mournful, unwilling, angry, and full of resentment. However, the moment it appeared, it abruptly stopped. A few seconds later, the sky returned to normal. Yichen saw this and curled his lips in disdain. Then, he looked straight into the distance. In the east, a one-sided massacre was currently taking place in the territories of more than 120 hidden factions. The ones being massacred were the hidden factions, and the ones doing the killing were Yi Chen's generals and 510,000 soldiers of the Samsara Legion. The places where these battles were taking place were all territories built by the hidden factions. Yi Chen had wanted to wipe them out for a long time, but because he could not determine which hidden factions they were and did not know where they were, he did not take action. And now, Yi Chen had used Soul Search to determine who was his enemy, who had schemed against him, and who was also a hidden faction that wanted to scheme against him. Yi Chen would not be soft-hearted towards these existences. If he had to kill, he would kill. He would not let a single one of them go. After taking a look at the situation of the various battles, Yi Chen nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. After killing these hidden factions, the remaining hidden factions would probably not dare to plot against him. However, it was hard to predict a person's mind. He could not let his guard down. Thinking of this, Yi Chen let out a long breath. Then, with a thought, the space in front of him instantly distorted. After taking a look at the distorted space, Yi Chen stepped into it and disappeared. Samsara City. In the back hall of the city lord's residence, the space was suddenly distorted. Then, Yi Chen, who had left not long ago, stepped out and appeared here. Husband! Empress Hari was the first to see Yi Chen. Her eyes lit up and she cheered. After that, she ran to Yi Chen and jumped directly to Yi Chen. Yi Chen, who had just returned, saw this and could not help but smile. Then he stretched out his hands and hugged the lowly, merciless the Great in his arms. At this moment, Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yuang, Zhen Mi, and Philos Aureus all came to Yi Chen and called out softly, "Husband!" Hearing this, Yi Chen nodded with a smile. Then he sat down on a chair with Empress Hari in his arms. Zhao Yu, who had not seen Yi Chen for many days, came to Yi Chen's side and sat down. Then she asked softly, "Husband, do you want to stay here or go to that world tonight?" After hearing Zhao Yu's question, Yi Chen smiled and said, "Here, in that world, there is nothing urgent for the time being." Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yuang, Zhen Mi, and Philos Aureus' eyes all lit up when they heard this. If they had to choose which world to stay with Yi Chen, Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, and Mi Zhen would prefer to stay in the real world. This was because only in this world could they conceive Yi Chen's child. In the game world, although Yi Chen's soul had a body, he did not have the ability to give birth. It was also for this reason that Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yuang, and Zhen Mi, as well as Philos Aureus, were so excited after hearing Yi Chen's words. Seeing the undisguised joy on the girls' faces, Yi Chen was slightly taken aback. He could not help but smile and say, "During this period of time, if there is nothing important, I will stay in this world." Chapter 1179. As her husband, Yi Chen naturally knew what Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, and Kai Yin were thinking and looking forward to. It was precisely for this reason that Yi Chen said such words. To be more precise, Yi Chen also wanted the women to get pregnant and have children. Otherwise, the women would definitely become more and more uneasy. It couldn't be helped. After all, they were all women of the Three Kingdoms period. The concept of carrying on the family line had long been deeply ingrained in their souls. If they really didn't give birth to children for Yi Chen, even if Yi Chen didn't care, they would still feel uncomfortable in their hearts. And this point would continue to grow stronger as time passed. If Yi Chen continued to not care, this matter would definitely become the inner demon of the women. It seemed inconceivable, but this was the truth. Therefore, no matter what, Yi Chen had to try his best to get the women pregnant and have children. As soon as Yi Chen's words fell, the smiles on the faces of Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yuan, Zhen Mi, and Philos Aureus became even wider. When Yichen saw this, he couldn't help but smile. Then, he looked at Empress Hari and Nana, who were also happy because Yi Chun said that he would stay. He said, "Nana, do you want to grow up right away?" When the lowly Empress Hari heard this, she was first stunned, and then her eyes suddenly lit up. In the next second, the lowly Empress Hari and Nana nodded without hesitation. Yes, yes, husband, Nana wants to grow up right away." The lowly Empress Hari and Nana actually didn't know what growing up meant. But even so, the lowly Empress Hari and Nana still wanted to grow up quickly and become an adult like Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, and Kai Yin. Because only in this way could she kiss Yi Chun like Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, and Mi Zhen. Although she, who had not been unsealed, did not understand what it meant for Yi Chun to kiss the women, she knew that Yi Chun enjoyed it very much. When Yi Chun kissed her, she was very happy and happy. It was also because of this that the lowly Empress Hari agreed without hesitation when she heard Yi Chun ask if she wanted to grow up right away. Hearing this, Yi Chun nodded with a smile, and then put the lowly Empress Hari and Nana on the ground. Just when Nana was confused, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and the black sky-devouring devil pot with a ghost face engraved on it instantly appeared in Yi Chun's right hand. Glancing at the black sky-devouring devil pot, Yi Chun let out a long breath, and then handed the sky-devouring devil pot to the lowly Empress Hari and Nana. When Nana saw the sky-devouring devil pot handed over by Yi Chun, she was stunned for a moment, and then reached out to take it. When Yi Chun saw this, he smiled slightly and said, "Nana, I need to take a drop of your essence blood. Don't be afraid, it won't hurt." Nana is not afraid. "Husband, take it." When Nanan heard this, she nodded her head very seriously. After she finished speaking, she raised her small hand. Seeing this, Yi Chun couldn't help but feel a warmth in his heart. Then, he raised his right hand and sucked in the air. In the next second, a drop of bright red blood suddenly appeared on Nana's little finger, and then flew off from her finger and fell directly into the sky-devouring devil pot in Nana's hand. The moment Nana's essence blood dripped into the sky-devouring devil pot, a strong bloody light suddenly erupted. Then, countless mysterious golden runes suddenly appeared on the sky-devouring devil pot, and then flew directly towards Nana. Just as the last golden rune flew to Nanan's body, the densely packed golden runes immediately formed golden circles one after another, and then began to revolve around Nanan at a rapid speed. At the same time, the sound of the great Tao rang out. Seeing this, Yi Chun's eyes brightened. Just as I expected, the sky-devouring devil pot can really remove the seal on Nana's body. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, Nanan suddenly fainted. Then he saw her skinny body slowly fly up and float in the middle of the hall. At the same time, an enormous amount of heaven and earth spirit chi suddenly rushed madly towards Nana. Seeing this, Yi Chun's eyes widened. Removing the seal would actually devour the heaven and earth spirit chi. In other words, after Nana removed the seal, her cultivation level would directly skyrocket. Although he didn't know how much it would increase, there had to be enough heaven and earth spirit chi, otherwise the process would be interrupted. Thinking of this, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and 100,000 supreme-grade spirit stones instantly appeared in the hall. Looking at the 100,000 supreme-grade spirit stones, Yi Chun raised his right hand and then clenched the air. Boom! The 100,000 supreme-grade spirit stones instantly made an extremely dull sound. In the next second, a large amount of extremely pure heaven and earth spirit chi directly erupted from the hall, turning into a spirit mist in the blink of an eye, and then into a spirit liquid. This was an inevitable reaction caused by the overabundance of heaven and earth spirit chi. When Yi Chun saw this, with a thought, his huge spiritual sense instantly enveloped the entire hall. Just as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was about to rush out of the hall, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth stopped spreading. Then, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth turned into spiritual energy of heaven and earth and poured into fierce Emperor Nan, who was floating in the hall. After a few breaths, a vortex formed by the spirit liquid directly appeared in the hall. Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yuang, Zhen Mi, and Philos Aureus immediately recovered from their shock and hurriedly called out to Yi Chun. Husband, the words of the women were extremely worried. They couldn't be blamed. The speed at which Nana swallowed the spirit liquid was too fast, and Nana's body was only that of a little girl's. If Nana couldn't bear it, there was a high chance that her body would explode from the spirit liquid. After hearing the worried words of the women, Yi Chun smiled slightly and then said, "It's fine. Don't worry. This is a necessary process." After hearing Yi Chun's words, the women were all stunned, and then they all breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, the speed at which Nana absorbed the spirit liquid suddenly increased. Seeing this, Yi Chun's eyes lit up. The speed was even faster. Yes, it was completely possible. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's mind moved, and 1,000,000 supreme-grade spirit stones appeared in an instant, and were then crushed by Yi Chun. Boom! After a dull explosion, the entire hall and the bedroom inside were filled with the spirit liquid in the blink of an eye, but it immediately began to decrease at an extremely fast speed. Damn, the speed at which the spirit liquid was being swallowed was really fast. At this speed, once the seal on Nana's body was completely removed, she would at least be at the tribulation passing stage. If it was faster, she would definitely become an immortal, or even an earth immortal or heaven immortal. This was possible. Chapter 1180. Thinking of this, Yi Chun could not help but smile. It was no wonder that Yi Chun was so happy. After all, Empress Hari and Nana could reach the tribulation stage and even become immortal directly before ascending. To Yi Chun, this was undoubtedly a great thing. As for the reason, it was very simple. The Eldritch world was not peaceful. There were powerhouses everywhere. If one was not careful, they could encounter danger. Moreover, according to Yi Chun's understanding of Empress Hari, Yi Chun was very sure that after Empress Hari and Nana were unsealed, they would definitely help Yi Chun do this and that. Even if her cultivation was low, she would still do so. Under such circumstances, if Empress Hari did not have enough cultivation, when Yi Chun ascended, he would most likely encounter a lot of danger. This could be easily seen from his previous life, when Empress Hari went around killing monsters for Yi Chun to improve his cultivation. He constantly searched for cultivation resources for Yi Chun, but he was scarred all over. It was also because Yi Chun was very clear about this that he was so happy that Empress Hari's cultivation level soared after the seal was unsealed. He wondered what cultivation level Nana would reach after the seal was unsealed. Just as Yi Chun was thinking of this, the spiritual liquid in the house suddenly decreased at a faster rate. After realizing this fact, Yi Chun's eyes could not help but light up. At this rate, once Nana's seal was unsealed, she would at least be a human immortal. Regardless of whether it was true or not, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth could not be reduced. Otherwise, the process would be interrupted. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's mind moved, and 2,000,000 supreme-grade spirit stones appeared in an instant. Then, Yi Chun directly exploded them. Boom, boom, boom. A series of dull explosions sounded in an instant. Then, a translucent shield suddenly appeared outside the house. In the next second, the translucent shield expanded rapidly. It only stopped after it had expanded for 5 meters. This was because there was too much spiritual liquid, which directly broke through Yi Chun's restrictions. Fortunately, my divine sense is strong enough. Otherwise, this spiritual liquid would have rushed out and dissipated into the heavens and the earth. Once such a situation occurred, Nana's cultivation speed would drop drastically. At the thought of this, Yi Chun looked directly at Nana, who was floating in the hall and madly devouring the spiritual liquid. In this life, being able to meet you ahead of time is my greatest fortune since my rebirth. In this life, I will never learn from my previous life. I clearly like someone, but I couldn't say it. I clearly loved someone, but I was indifferent. In the end, I let your soul return to heaven and earth, but I will regret it for the rest of my life. Fortunately, the heavens treated me well and allowed me to be reborn. Otherwise, everything would have become a thing of the past, and this world would no longer have any traces of me. At the thought of this, Yi-chun let out a long breath. At this moment, Empress Hari, who was floating in the hall, suddenly had a golden spot of light on her originally smooth forehead. Then, he saw Nana's body grow bigger and bigger at a visible rate. 5 years old, 10 years old, 13 years old, 16 years old. It was only when the lowly Empress Hari, Nana, turned into an 18-year-old that the transformation stopped. Seeing this, Yi-chun's eyes suddenly lit up. The seal had been lifted. Just as Yi-chun thought of this, the speed at which Nana devoured the spiritual liquid began to slow down. Seeing this, Yi-chun moved his mind, and another 1,000,000 top-grade spirit stones appeared in the hall. Then, Yi-chun crushed them. At this moment, a huge amount of spiritual energy appeared again, but in the blink of an eye, it gathered together and turned into spiritual liquid. Time passed little by little, and the spiritual liquid in the hall continued to decrease. When there was only 1% left, Nana, who was madly devouring the spiritual liquid, stopped and slowly landed on the ground. In the next second, the 18-year-old Nana slowly opened her eyes. At this moment, a pressure that only a human immortal could possess erupted from Empress Hari, Nana, and then soared into the sky. It's her, my Nana. She's back. Looking at the extremely familiar face, Yi-chun's mood reached its peak. At this moment, Nana, who had just involuntarily released her pressure, hurriedly withdrew it, and then looked at Yi-chun and called out, "Husband." When Yi-chun heard Empress Hari, Nana's shyness, but very serious call, all kinds of things from his previous life suddenly appeared in his mind. Brother, Nana is hungry. Brother, Nana is so scared. Brother, Nana will protect you. Brother, this is the violet dragon crystal. It's very helpful for your injuries. Brother, Nana found a good place for cultivation. I'll take you there now. Brother, live well. After a short moment of absent-mindedness, Yi-chun took a deep breath and then exhaled deeply. Madam, Yi-chun's voice trembled a little. It was out of excitement, but also out of nostalgia for his previous life and determination for the future. As soon as Yi-chun finished speaking, Empress Hari, Nana, who had just turned 18 years old, immediately gave Yi-chun a sweet smile and then pounced on Yi-chun. When Yi-chun saw this, he hugged Nana in his arms and then kissed her fiercely. In his previous life, from the time they met by chance, to the time they got to know each other, and then to the time they were separated by life and death, Yi-chun had missed a lot. In this life, Yi-chun didn't want to miss anymore, nor was he willing to miss anymore. Time passed little by little, and it wasn't until 10 minutes later that Yi-chun completely returned to his senses, and then stopped. Sensing Yi-chun's movements, Empress Hari, Nana, opened her eyes, which had been closed because of Yi-chun's kiss, and then looked at Yi-chun, happily saying, "Hubby, Nana has grown up." "Yes, Nana has grown up." Yi-chun heard this, nodded, and then said softly. After saying this, Yi-chun was stunned. Yi-chun had neglected the fact that Empress Hari, Nana's clothes were too small, and now that the seal on her body was lifted, it directly burst. After coming back to his senses, Yi-chun was about to speak when Zhao Yu directly waved her right hand, and a set of clothes directly appeared in her right hand. In the next second, Zhao Yu looked at Empress Hari, Nana, and said softly, "Sister, change into the clothes." Zhao Yu clearly felt Yi-chun's feelings for Nana from Yi-chun's eyes, expression, tone, and attitude. Although she was a little puzzled, Zhao Yu would not be jealous because of this. This was because Yi-chun's feelings for her, Diao-chan, Kai-yin, Mi-jun, and the other girls were not bad either. For Zhao Yu, there was only one thing she had to do, and that was to follow the rules that Yi-chun had set long ago. The sisters would live in harmony, not be jealous of each other, and not be hostile to each other. In fact, It was not only Zhao Yu who had such an attitude. Diaochan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yuang, Zhen Mi, the five sisters Philos Aureus, and Big Qiao were all like this. Of course, this situation was not only because Yi Chun did not discriminate between wives and concubines, but also because they were all women from the Three Kingdoms period. If they were players, Yi Chen's backyard would have been a mess long ago. As soon as Zhao Yu finished speaking, Empress Hari and Nana were stunned, and then her face turned red. In the next second, Nana said softly, "Okay." After saying that, she walked to Zhao Yu's side and took the clothes to the bedroom. Seeing Empress Hari and Nana's shy appearance, Yi Chen could not help but smile. At this moment, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the other generals, as well as groups of Samsara Legion soldiers, walked out of the distorted space that Yi Chen had kept open. After discovering this with his divine sense, Yi Chen immediately looked at Zhao Yu, Diaochan, Kai Yin, Big Qiao, and the other girls and said, "Ladies, I'll go to that world first. I'll be back soon. I'll personally cook tonight." "Okay, husband." When Zhao Yu, Diaochan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, and the other girls heard this, they all smiled and said, Chapter 1181. After hearing their words, Yi Chen smiled and waved his right hand. The restriction that confined the spiritual liquid in the hall and bedroom disappeared instantly. At this moment, the spiritual liquid that Empress Hari and Nana had not finished absorbing was directly vaporized. Then they turned into spiritual mist and flew into the sky. If someone saw this scene, they would definitely say that it was a waste. After all, this was the purest spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It was a waste to let it dissipate. However, this was not the case at all. After all, Yi Chen had a spirit-gathering formation disk in Samsara City in the real world. With it, no matter how the spiritual chi of heaven and earth spread, it could only stay in Samsara City. It could not go anywhere else. Therefore, there was no waste at all. After glancing at the spiritual mist that was flying into the sky and spreading rapidly, Yi Chen went straight out of the door and walked towards the front residence. In the front residence of the city lord's mansion in Samsara City, in the main hall. As soon as Yi Chen arrived, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and other generals who had just returned to Samsara City bowed to Yi Chen in unison and said loudly, "Greetings, my lord." Hearing this, Yi Chen nodded with a smile. Then, he looked at his subordinates and asked, "How did it go? Did anyone slip through the net?" Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals hurriedly bowed and said, "My lord, all the enemies have been killed." When Yi Chen heard this, he nodded in satisfaction and said, "That's right. Since you have followed me, you have been fighting on the battlefield. So far, you have not had much time to rest. Now, there will be no war for the time being. You can rest as much as you want for a few days. After that, you can focus on cultivation and prepare for your ascension." "Yes, my lord." When Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, Gan Ning, and the other generals heard this, their eyes lit up and they excitedly bowed. To ascend to the heavens, this was once an unattainable dream in the hearts of all the generals. But after they chose to follow Yi Chen, this dream directly became within reach. After they broke through to the mortal evolution state, the immortal ascension that was within reach became a fact. However, their lord, Yi Chen, still had a goal in the Three Kingdoms novice zone, which was to ascend the entire nation. Therefore, they had to continue staying in the Three Kingdoms novice zone. And now, their lord Yi Chen's words were undoubtedly telling them that the time to conquer the world, establish a nation, and then ascend was not far away. To them, this was a piece of good news that made them excited. As for the reason, it was very simple. Ascension was the dream of all the natives in the Three Kingdoms novice zone who knew about this matter. Of course, after ascension, they might encounter dangers and hardships. Whether it was Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the others, they all knew and understood. However, they would not be afraid of ascension because of this. To them, being able to follow their lord, Yi Chun, was what they wanted to do the most. This was because everything they had now, as well as their vast and bright future, were all brought to them by their lord, Yi Chun. Without Yi Chun, they would still be the novice generals of the Three Kingdoms novice zone. Perhaps they would be able to meet a wise lord, but even so, they would turn into dust in less than 100 years. How would they have a lifespan of hundreds of years now? It was also because of this reason that they were grateful, and touched. They were even more willing to give up everything for their lord, Yi Chun. Even if their bodies and souls were to disappear, they would have no regrets. And this was also the reason why they wanted to ascend. After all, their lord Yi Chun's goal was to ascend to the heavens. After hearing the excited words of his subordinates, Yi Chun smiled and said, "Go back and rest for a few days. Go back and rest for a few days. Then continue to cultivate. After some time, the reincarnation immortal city will send out troops and sweep the world. Yes, my lord." Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals' eyes lit up when they heard this. Then they bowed and saluted Yi Chun loudly. Hearing this, Yi Chun nodded. Then, with a thought, he instantly released his divine sense. After confirming that everyone had returned, Yi Chun waved his right hand. The space channel opened by Yi Chun instantly disappeared without a trace. Previously, Yi Chun purposely opened the space channel in order to eliminate all the hidden forces that had schemed against him. It was for convenience's sake. But now, those hidden forces that had been detected by Yi Chun as hostile and had even taken action had all been eliminated. Naturally, Yi Chun would not continue to keep the space channel open. If Yi Chun really did so, as long as players discovered the space channel, there was a 90% chance that they would directly pass through the space channel and arrive at Reincarnation City. If they were ordinary players, Yi Chun would not be concerned. This was because Reincarnation City in the real world was not only guarded by the Purple Mansion Realm Flaming Tiger Yulin, but also Empress Hari Nana, who had just been unsealed and had directly become a human immortal. Therefore, as soon as ordinary players came, they would definitely be discovered and killed immediately. This was referring to ordinary players. If they were members of the hidden forces, then it would be a different story. To be more precise, the hidden forces that Yi Chun had eliminated were not all. There were still many hidden forces that were not hostile to Yi Chun and had not schemed against Yi Chun. Therefore, they still existed. If they accidentally arrived at Reincarnation City through the space channel opened by Yi Chun and then spread the news, when someone with ulterior motives found out, there was a 90% chance that someone would rush directly to Reincarnation City with powerful items and then self-destruct. Although this kind of situation was not likely to happen because of Empress Hari and Nana, and the possibility of success was not high, in the end, it was still possible. At that time, Nana could protect Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, and the others, but she might not be able to protect Reincarnation City and the tens of thousands of Reincarnation City soldiers guarding Reincarnation City. Yi Chun did not want to see such a situation happen. Therefore, Yi Chun could not let the space channel remain open forever. After glancing at the place where the space channel disappeared, Yi Chun then looked outside the door at the Samsara Legion that had just returned. Return to that world. Yes, my lord. When the soldiers of the Samsara Legion heard this, they all bowed and saluted in the direction of Yi Chun in the Castellan's mansion. When Yi Chun heard this, he smiled slightly. Then he walked straight to the diamond-level game cabin and lay down inside. With a creak, the door of the diamond-level game cabin closed immediately. When Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals saw this, they all disappeared with a thought. At the same time, the Samsara Legion on the streets of Reincarnation City disappeared one by one. In the game world, in the novice zone of the Three Kingdoms, in the main hall of the Castellan's mansion in Reincarnation Immortal City, a beam of light suddenly appeared. Then, Yi Chun, who had just left not long ago, appeared directly here. In the next second, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the other generals appeared one after another. Just as Yi Chen opened his eyes, a voice filled with excitement suddenly rang out. "My lord, His Majesty is critically ill." Chapter 1182. Yi Chen's eyes widened when he heard this. Then he looked at Guijia, who had come to the hall of the Castellan's mansion, and asked, "Is what Feng Xiao said true?" When Yi Chen went to Luoyang and saw Lu Hong's lifeless body, he knew that Lu Hong would not live for long. At most, he would live for half a month. But even if that was the case, it was impossible for Lu Hong to fall into a critical condition in just a short 2 hours. Who would have thought that after Yi Chen dealt with the hidden forces in the real world and returned to the game world, he would hear the news that Lu Hong was critically ill? How could Yi Chen not be surprised? When Guijia heard Yi Chen's question, he nodded seriously and said, "Yes, my lord." After Zhang Rang sent a large number of craftsmen to the rebuilt Samsara city in Yuzhou, someone came back in a hurry and asked Zhang Rang to go back. Zhao Heng, who was in charge of Samsara city, noticed that something was wrong, so he asked Zhang Rang about it. Zhang Rang did not hide anything and told him that Lu Hong was critically ill. He also asked Zhao Heng to tell my lord as soon as possible when my lord comes back, so that my lord can lead the army to Luoyang. Yi Chen's eyes lit up when he heard Guijia's explanation. Then he threw his head back and laughed wildly. Damn it, the Dongzhuo rebellion is finally about to begin. Once the Dongzhuo rebellion starts, the struggle for hegemony is not far away. Looking at Yi Chen's excited look, Guijia smiled and then bowed to Yi Chen. "My lord, the time is coming." Yi Chen came back to his senses when he heard this. He nodded with a smile and said, "Feng Xiao is right. Feng Xiao is right. The time is right, but we still have to wait a few days." Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, Gan Ning, and the other generals who had just returned looked at each other and then bowed to Yi Chen in unison. "Congratulations, my lord. Congratulations, my lord." When Yi Chen heard this, he smiled and nodded. Then he looked at Guijia and asked, "Feng Xiao, why is His Majesty suddenly in critical condition?" "Master," after Zhao Heng passed the news to the reincarnation Immortal City, Jia sent 5 men to Luoyang to find out more information. However, the result was ridiculous. Guijia smiled and bowed when he heard Yi Chen's question. When Yi Chen heard this, he was slightly taken aback. "What kind of nonsense is this? My lord, it seems that Lu Hong slept with 5 palace maids because he was drunk. Then, he became critically ill." Guijia lamented. Yi Chen was stunned when he heard this. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the others were also stunned. In the next second, Zhang Fei opened his mouth and laughed loudly. "This old fellow, how dare he do this without a body? He's lucky that he didn't die immediately." When Zhang Fei finished speaking, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba looked at each other and smiled. Yi Chen coughed a few times and said, "Alcohol is harmful to the body. Wine and lust are harmful to the body. All of you must remember this. Do not wantonly ruin your bodies just because your bodies are better than others. My lord, 100 Flowers wine is not harmful to the body." When Guijia heard this, he hurriedly bowed to Yi Chen. When Yi Chen heard this, his face froze. He then glared at Guijia and said, "You're talking too much. I'll punish you with 3 bottles of your monthly allowance." "My lord, please don't." "Jia, I was just speaking the truth," Guijia immediately said in an aggrieved tone. When Yi Chen heard Guijia's joking words, he helplessly shook his head and said, "Feng Xiao, I've decided to find a wife." "Feng Xiao, your lord has decided. I will find you a wife, and she must be ugly. She must be ugly." "My lord Jia, I was wrong." Guijia was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly bowed. When Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba saw this, they couldn't help but laugh. Yi Chen and Guijia's conversation was actually a joke. This was something that they were naturally able to tell. It was precisely because they were able to tell that they were laughing out loud. This wasn't mockery or schadenfreude. but a genuine relief. It couldn't be helped. A lord like Yi Chun was the only one in the world. As long as they followed Yi Chun, they didn't need to worry about anything. To be more precise, their lord, Yi Chun, gave them the feeling that he was a friend, a senior, and also a family. They very much liked this atmosphere. It was very cordial and very relaxed. When he saw Guijia's aggrieved expression and the cordial laughter of his subordinates, Yi Chun couldn't help but chuckle. His subordinates viewed Yi Chun as a relative, a friend, and a senior. Not wearing a mask, speaking and acting the same way, showing off one's true self, was naturally something that Yi Chun liked to see the most. Otherwise, Yi Chun wouldn't be so happy. This kind of atmosphere, not bad, not bad. Just as Yi Chun was thinking this, the aggrieved Guijia suddenly thought of something. His expression immediately turned solemn, and he bowed to Yi Chun. Your Majesty, Luoyang has now become a place of strife. Your Majesty must not go there. Luoyang definitely can't go there. Otherwise, it'll be chaotic. Yi Chun nodded and said. After saying this, Yi Chun looked at Guijia and said, Feng Chong, tell Zhao Fei that Zhao Fei will send someone to visit Zhao Fei. Feng Xiao, tell Zhao Heng that if Zhang Rang sends more people here, reject them immediately. Just say that I'm taking my wife to the mountains to visit my teacher. No one knows the exact location. Although Lu Hong was currently critically ill, he wasn't dead yet. Zhang Rang could still speak for him. If Yi Chun didn't come up with an excellent excuse of not going to Luoyang, Zhang Rang would very likely sense Yi Chun's true intentions. If such a situation occurred, Zhang Rang would make things difficult for Yi Chun before Lu Hong died. Even if it wasn't 100%, it was at least 70 to 80%. Yi Chun didn't want to see such a situation. Otherwise, Yi Chun wouldn't have said this. Guijia immediately smiled when he heard Yi Chun's words. Then he bowed to Yi Chun. Your Majesty is wise. When Yi Chun heard this, he glared at Guijia and said, Stop flattering me. Don't flatter me. By the way, you guys should take a good rest for the next few days. Even if Lu Hong dies of illness, it will take some time before the Great Han Empire really becomes chaotic. Once the Great Han Empire really becomes chaotic, we should take action. The sometime that Yi Chun spoke of was naturally referring to Dong Zhuo's rebellion. As long as Dong Zhuo began to wreak havoc in the world and wreak havoc in the imperial palace, the feudal vassals would begin to demand Dong Zhuo's surrender. After that, the feudal vassals would contend for supremacy. And this was exactly what Yi Chun was waiting for. Yi Chun couldn't directly mobilize troops for Dong Zhuo's rebellion. Only when the feudal vassals began to fight each other would Yi Chun have enough status to sweep across the world and seize the remaining fortune of heaven and earth of the Great Han Empire. Finally, he would establish a nation and ascend. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, Guojia, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the others bowed in unison. Yes, Your Majesty. When Yi Chun heard this, he chuckled and nodded. Then he looked at Guijia and said, Feng Xiao, tell Zizhong that Reincarnation Immortal City will hold a 3-day celebration. All soldiers can drink to their heart's content. The citizens of Reincarnation Immortal City can also participate. All expenses are waived. Chapter 1183. Guo was taken aback by Yi Chun's words. He did not expect that Yi Chun would ask the army and citizens of Reincarnation Immortal City to celebrate for 3 days when Lu Hong was critically ill. After regaining his composure, Guo hurriedly bowed to Yi Chun and said, Your Highness, His Majesty was healthy before, so there was nothing wrong with celebrating for 3 days. But now His Majesty is critically ill and the world may descend into chaos at any time. I'm afraid it's inappropriate for you to announce the celebration now. Feng Xiao, are you worried that the citizens will be conflicted because of this? Yi Chun was taken aback by his words. He looked at Guijia and asked. After hearing Yi Chun's words, Guijia shook his head and bowed. Your Highness, the citizens are able to live and work in peace and contentment because of you. Therefore, They are grateful to you and only treat you as their king. However, the Great Han Dynasty is not dead yet, so they are still citizens of the Great Han Dynasty. If your Highness insists on celebrating your victorious return at this time, although the citizens will not be conflicted because of this, it is very likely that their good impression of your Highness will decline because of this. Therefore, I, Jia, implore your Highness to reconsider. Yi Chen was taken aback by his words. F***CK, Lu Hong is about to die. I was so happy that I forgot about this. Thinking of this, the corners of Yi Chen's mouth twitched involuntarily. He then looked at Guijia and said, Feng Xiao, if it weren't for your reminder, I'm afraid that I would have made a mistake. The mistake Yi Chen mentioned was naturally in terms of etiquette. Going deeper, it was in terms of character and morality. At first glance, it was a little confusing, but it was the truth. After all, Lu Hong was critically ill, and Yi Chen wanted to celebrate for the entire city. It was a little unreasonable. After all, Yi Chen was the Prince Yu of Han and Lu Hong's son-in-law. Although Yi Chen did not acknowledge him as his son-in-law, the citizens of the Great Han Dynasty did not think so. Thus, no matter what, it was unsuitable for Yi Chen to hold a celebration at this time. Even if Yi Chen had just returned from a victorious return and it was reasonable to celebrate, it was still the same. After hearing Yi Chen's words, Guojia immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He then bowed seriously to Yi Chen and said, Your Highness is wise. Since the celebration is not allowed, let the soldiers have a 3-day holiday and reunite with their families. Yi Chen glared at the flattering Guojia, then turned to Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals hurriedly bowed at Yi Chen's orders. Yes, Your Highness. Yi Chen waved his right hand, and a small mountain of supreme-grade spirit stones instantly appeared in the front courtyard of the city lord's mansion. Pointing at the small mountain of supreme-grade spirit stones, Yi Chen said, It has been a long time since the start of the war. It has been some time since we went abroad to fight. The soldiers all have military merits. As for how many merits they have, you should have a record of it. Yi Chen paused for a moment. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Huang Zhong all nodded. Yi Chen smiled and said, These supreme-grade spirit stones are distributed among the soldiers. Distribute these supreme-grade spirit stones to the soldiers according to their battle merits. Also, find a servant and receive a batch of 100 flowers wine. Distribute it to the soldiers according to their battle merits. The minimum is 1 bottle, and the maximum is 3 bottles. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba were all taken aback by these words. When Yi Chen was on the battlefield, he had rewarded the soldiers with many supreme-grade spirit stones and other good things. These alone were enough to reward the soldiers for going on this expedition. There was no need to reward the soldiers. Otherwise, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Huang Zhong would not have been so stunned. After coming to their senses, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Huang Zhong hastily bowed to Yi Chen. Yes, Your Highness. When Yi Chen heard this, he chuckled and nodded. Then, with a wave of his right hand, a dozen crosses with the ability to store items instantly appeared in Yi Chen's hand. After glancing at the crosses in his hand, Yi Chen immediately looked at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Huang Zhong. Those who have done well will be rewarded, and those who have done wrong will be punished. All of you have followed me to the overseas expedition. Your contributions cannot go unnoticed and must be rewarded. When Yi Chen said this, he willed the crosses in his hand to fly to Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei. When Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, and Guan Yu saw this, they hastily reached out to catch the crosses. Then they were stunned. As Violet Palace Realm cultivators, they could easily see what was stored in the crosses. 10 leaves of enlightenment tea, 1 million supreme-grade spirit stones, and 100 bottles of 100 flowers wine. There were not many items, but the value was not small. Take the Tao Comprehension Tea Leaves, for example. A single piece of this thing could give them a chance to revive. This was not good, it was simply too good. Supreme-grade spirit stones were cultivation resources. They had the ability to automatically absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. 1,000,000 supreme-grade spirit stones were enough to support their cultivation to the tribulation passing stage. Was this reward good? How could it not be good? The 100 Flowers wine was one of the top 10 wines in the primitive time. Although the winemakers in the Reincarnation Immortal City could not brew 100% of the 100 Flowers wine due to the lack of materials, the 100 Flowers wine of the Reincarnation Immortal City was still a rare treasure. After drinking it, not only could it strengthen one's physical body, but it could also help one's cultivation. It was also a supreme delicacy. Otherwise, even Gao Shun, who did not drink alcohol, would change his habit and drink the 100 Flowers wine after noticing the uniqueness of the 100 Flowers wine. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that it was impossible for them to obtain 100 bottles of 100 Flowers wine in one go, even if they were generals. This was because Yichin only gave them 10 bottles a month. Of course, in terms of value, the 100 Flowers wine was not as valuable as the first two. However, the 100 Flowers wine was a supplementary reward from Yichun. The real reward was the first two. Even so, Yichen's rewards were enough to make Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals excited. After a short moment of shock, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Huang Zhong bowed to Yichen in unison. "Thank you, master." Yichen nodded with a smile. Then, he handed the rest of the crosses to Guo Jia, who was looking at him expectantly. "Feng Xiao, you take one. Give the rest to Pang Tong, Tian Feng, Chen Kun, and Jia Su." After saying this, Yi Chun handed the rest of the crosses to Guo Jia. Guo Jia stretched out his hand and caught it. He was stunned for a moment before his eyes lit up. "Thank you, master." When Yi Chun heard Guo Jia's excited words, he shook his head helplessly and said, "That's right. It's all thanks to this 100 Flowers wine that you won't get drunk on and can strengthen your body. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to get a bottle." Guo Jia had heaven's jealousy. Drinking wine from the mortal world could easily harm Guo Jia's body. Otherwise, Yi Chun wouldn't have said that. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, Guo Jia's heart was filled with warmth. In the next second, Guo Jia solemnly bowed to Yi Chun and said, "I'm sorry. To be able to follow master, Jia has no regrets." When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded emotionally and said, "That's right. Feng Xiao, although this 100 Flowers wine is harmless, you still need to control yourself. Don't drink too much. My lord, I will remember your words." Guo Jia nodded seriously and bowed. Yi Chun patted Guo Jia on the shoulder, then turned to Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei. "Rest well for a few days. Whether you're cultivating or on the battlefield, you need to rest well." "Yes, master." Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals bowed. Chapter 1184. Hearing this, Yi Chun nodded with a smile. Then, with a thought, he went offline. Yi Chun purposely logged on this time to give some rewards to his generals and soldiers. After all, they had just returned from a great victory. As the Lord, if he didn't give some rewards to his subordinates, it would be inexcusable. Now that he had given out the rewards, Yi Chun naturally had to go offline to accompany his women. Of course, among them, Yi Chun needed to accompany Empress Hari and Nana, who had just been unsealed. In the game world, Lu Hong was critically ill and Dong Zhu's rebellion could break out at any time. Yi Chun didn't care, because Yi Chun was waiting for Dong Zhu's rebellion to break out and for the feudal lords to start fighting for Dong Zhuo. Only then would Yi Chun appear. Of course, Yi Chun wouldn't kill Dong Zhuo directly. Otherwise, how could the feudal lords fight for supremacy start? And if the feudal lords' fight for supremacy didn't start, Yi Chun wouldn't have enough reason to send out troops to conquer the world. To be more precise, he had to have a good reason to send out troops. This was what Yi Chun wanted. Of course, this wouldn't take long. As soon as Lu Hong died, Zhang Rang, who couldn't contact Yi Chun, would definitely contact all the feudal lords under the pressure of Eugene and the others. And Dongjua was Zhang Rang's first choice. At that time, Dongjua's rebellion would break out directly. After that, the world would be in chaos. And when the feudal lords' fight for supremacy started, Yi Chun wouldn't hesitate to send out troops to conquer the world and then establish the Samsara Empire. This was the last step Yi Chun had to complete in the newbie area of the Three Kingdoms. In the real world, in the hall of the Castellan's mansion in Samsara City, the diamond-level gaming cabin opened with a creak. Then, Yi Chun stood up from it. At this moment, an affectionate call suddenly sounded. "Brother." When Yi Chun heard this, he couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. He then chuckled and patted the head of Flaming Tiger Yilin, who was standing beside the diamond gaming capsule. "You don't have to be so special in the future. Just accompany your sisters in the backyard." Flaming Tiger Yilin was responsible for guarding Samsara City and protecting Yi Chun's physical body. Therefore, she spent most of her time in the hall of the Castellan's mansion. After the girls came to the real world, although Flaming Tiger Yilin still spent most of her time in the City Lore Mansion's main hall, she would take some time out to chat with the girls in the backyard. Of course, at this time, Flaming Tiger Yilin would release her consciousness to cover the area within 100 miles of Samsara City. Otherwise, it would be difficult for Flaming Tiger Yilin to detect if someone sneaked into the vicinity of Samsara City. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Flaming Tiger Yilin regarded Yi Chun as her everything. Knowing that Yi Chun would be back soon, she would definitely not wait in the backyard. Instead, she would specially come to the hall to welcome Yi Chun. And this was also the reason why Yi Chun felt warm in his heart. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, Flaming Tiger Yilin intimately rubbed against Yi Chun's big hand and said sweetly, "I didn't know that you were coming. It's fine if I didn't know that Big Brother was coming back. If I knew, I would definitely come." Okay. Yi Chun couldn't help but smile when he heard this. Then he said, "Let's go. Let's go to the backyard. I'll make something delicious for you." Flaming Tiger Yilin's eyes lit up when she heard this. Then, she hurriedly nodded her head and said, "Okay." Yi Chun had never shown his culinary skills before, so no one knew how good Yi Chun's culinary skills were. But not long ago, after Yi Chun showed his culinary skills, whether it was Yi Chun's women or Yi Chun's spirit pets, they all knew one thing. That was their husband, their master, Yi Chun. His culinary skills were simply the best in the world. They were simply too happy to be able to eat Yi Chun's cooking. And for Flaming Tiger Yilin, who was a glutton, this was not very attractive. After hearing Flaming Tiger Yilin's excited words, Yi Chun couldn't help but smile. Then, he walked toward the backyard. City Lord's mansion, backyard hall. Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yuang, Zhen Mi, the five sisters to Xiao, Xiao Xiao, and Philos Aureus were chatting happily with Empress Hari, who had just been unsealed and turned into an 18-year-old. As soon as Yi Chun entered, the women immediately stopped chatting. Then, they saw the 18-year-old Empress Hari. Nana immediately blushed and hurriedly lowered her head, not daring to look at Yi Chun. Yi Chun was stunned when he saw this. Just as Yi Chun didn't understand the reason, Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, and the other women all called out to Yi Chun with a smile. "Husband." When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded, then walked straight to Empress Hari and Nana and sat down on the chair next to her. "Nana, why are you suddenly shy?" When Nana heard Yi Chun's question, her body couldn't help but tremble. Then she called out nervously, "Husband, husband, what's going on? Why is she suddenly so nervous?" Yi Chun thought with a dumbfounded expression. Then, he looked at Zhao Yu, trying to figure out the answer from Zhao Yu's expression. When Zhao Yu saw this, she blushed slightly and turned her head away, not daring to look at Yi Chun. What does this mean? Huh? Wait a minute. Could it be that Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, and Kai Yin told Nana what husband and wife were going to do? When he thought of this, Yi Chun directly swept his gaze across the faces of the women one by one. When he noticed that the women were avoiding his gaze and that they were all very shy, Yichen instantly confirmed his judgment. Damn, these wives of mine are they've won my heart. Haha. When he thought of this, Yichen couldn't help but laugh. Then, he coughed a few times and stood up. In the next second, Yichen looked straight at the maidservant standing in the hall and said, "Go to the kitchen and prepare the dishes. Go to the kitchen and prepare. This prince is going to cook for the madams." "Yes, you Lord Beach." When the maidservants heard Yi Chen's words, their eyes lit up and they hurriedly bowed to Yi Chen. When Yi Chen cooked, just smelling it made them feel extremely comfortable. If they could add on the fact that the maidservants, could eat the leftovers after Yi Chen and the women finished eating, then it wouldn't be as simple as comfort, but happiness and satisfaction. Otherwise, these maidservants wouldn't be so excited after hearing Yi Chen's words. When Yi Chen saw the maidservants' inexplicably excited expressions, he couldn't help but smile and waved his hand. When the maidservants saw this, they hurriedly bowed and left the hall in a hurry. At this moment, a black light flashed, and the Black Emperor appeared outside the door. When Yi Chen saw this, he smiled slightly. Then, he looked at the Black Emperor and asked, "Is it all done?" When Yi Chen went offline earlier, he was dealing with the hidden forces in the real world. When he was looking for these hidden forces, Yi Chen released his divine sense and saw the Black Emperor killing the fleeing men in black. At first, Yi Chen did not understand the reason. However, when Yi Chen saw the Black Emperor kill the black-clothed man and take out some powerful items from the black-clothed man's storage bag, he instantly understood what these black-clothed men were doing. To be more precise, these men were sent by Elder Yun, who had been killed by Yi Chen. They wanted to use powerful items to directly attack the people of Samsara City. And this was one of the reasons why Yi Chen directly gave the order to kill them all. Chapter 1185. As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, the Black Emperor, who had just returned, nodded his head seriously. Then, he opened his mouth and spat out a pile of storage bag. When Yi Chen saw this, he couldn't help but smile. Then, he looked at the Black Emperor and said, "I didn't expect you to even bring back their storage bag. Not bad, not bad. What reward do you want?" As a member of the royal family of the Starry Sky Sword Dragon race, the Black Emperor's eyes lit up when he heard this. Then, he made an action and expression of after eating, his face is intoxicated towards Yi Chen. When Yi Chen saw this, he was slightly startled. He did not expect the Black Emperor to not want cultivation resources and only want to eat delicious food. After coming back to his senses, Yi Chen could not help but smile and say, "You've done well. This time, I'll make sure you eat your fill. Also, this is for you." After Yi Chen finished speaking, he waved his right hand and 1,000,000 top-grade spirit stones instantly appeared in the hall. When the Black Emperor saw this, he was slightly startled. Then, his eyes widened with a schwa sound. How could the Black Emperor not know what top-grade spirit stones were? However, it was useless even if he knew, because the previous Yi Chen did not have many top-grade spirit stones in his hands. Therefore, it was not his turn to use top-grade spirit stones. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that top-grade spirit stones were extremely useful to the Black Emperor. To be more precise, with top-grade spirit stones, the Black Emperor's growth speed would soar. And this was extremely attractive to the royal family of the Starry Sky Sword Dragon race, the Black Emperor. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so excited. Seeing the Black Emperor's indescribably excited expression, Yi Chen smiled slightly. Then he raised his right hand and sucked in the air. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dozens of sounds rang out. The storage bag that the Black Emperor spat out instantly flew towards Yi Chen and stopped in front of Yi Chen. In the next second, with a thought from Yi Chen, the items in the dozens of storage bag flew out and floated in the air. Glancing at the many items floating in the air, Yi Chen could not help but raise his eyebrows. Previously, I was still wondering why I didn't see any powerful items in the Yun clan. It turns out that they were all taken away by the men in black who were killed by the Black Emperor. But then again, this Elder Yun really dared to put in a lot of money. He actually gave out all the powerful items. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to get close to my samsara city. Thinking of this, Yichen curled his lips in disdain. Then he kept all the powerful props floating in the air into his pocket dimension. In the next second, Yichen waved his right hand, and a pure white true sunfire appeared in an instant. Then it incinerated everything floating in the air. The Black Emperor, who had just returned, walked over to the 1,000,000 supreme grade spirit stones. Then he opened his mouth and swallowed all of them in the blink of an eye. Yichen was stunned when he saw this. He didn't expect the Black Emperor to have his own personal pocket dimension. Thinking of this, Yichen couldn't help but smile. Then, with a thought, 18 crosses with storage functions appeared in an instant. Then, Yichen sent them to the girls and Flaming Tiger Yilin with his consciousness. Xiaoyu, Diaochan, Kaiyin, Empress Hari, Nana, Mi Jun, Huang Yuang, Zhenmi, the five sisters to Xiao, Philos Aureus, and Flaming Tiger Yilin were all stunned when they saw this. At this moment, Yichen said with a chuckle, "This is similar to a storage pouch. There are some supreme grade spirit stones in it. Each of you has one." Yichen went on expeditions abroad and got a lot of good things. Even in his previous life, supreme grade spirit stones were rarely seen, but Yichen got hundreds of millions of them. If it were someone else, it was basically impossible for them to give this away. After all, supreme great spirit stones were very useful and had a great effect on cultivation. But in Yichen's case, it was impossible for such a situation to happen. This was because Xiaoyu, Diaochan, Kaiyin, Nana, Mi Jun, and the other girls were Yichen's women. Flaming Tiger Yilin, Treasure Hunter Fish Yi Xiaoyu, and the other spiritual pets were all Yichen's loyal. They were willing to die for Yichen. Yichen couldn't be stingy with them. "Thank you, my husband brother." Xiaoyu, Diaochan, Kaiyin, Mi Jun, Nana, and the others heard this and smiled sweetly. After they finished speaking, they immediately took the crosses in front of them. Then they were all stunned. There were also 1,000,000 supreme great spirit stones in the crosses that Yichen gave them, and 1,000,000 medium great spirit stones in Nana's cross. Nana had now reached the human immortal realm. For Nana, supreme great spirit stones were useless. Yichen naturally couldn't return them to Empress Hari. If he wanted to give them to Nana, he would give them medium great spirit stones. After a short period of shock, the girls all looked at Yichen with touched eyes. When Yichen saw this, he couldn't help but smile. Then, he looked at Flaming Tiger Yilin and asked, "Where's Xiaoyu and the others?" Previously, when Yichen went offline and released his divine sense to investigate the hidden forces in the east, he saw Black Emperor. However, he didn't see the treasure-hunting fish, Yi Xiaoyu, the golden-haired monkey, and little tortoise who had the bloodline of the black tortoise. At that time, Yichen was busy eliminating the hidden forces, so he didn't ask much. Now that Yichen went offline again and still didn't see the three of them, Yichen was naturally puzzled. Otherwise, Yichen wouldn't have asked. "Brother, Xiaoyu brought Little Gold and Little Tortoise to a secret realm that they discovered 2 days ago," Flaming Tiger Yilin hurriedly said when she heard Yichen's question. "Secret realm? What secret realm?" Yichen was slightly stunned when he heard this, and then asked. Flaming Tiger Yilin smiled and said, "Xiaoyu said, it's a secret realm. Little Yu said that it's a very special mystic realm that only opens once a year. Every time it opens, it will only last for 3 days. However, there's no danger inside. There's such a secret realm." Yichen was slightly stunned and then asked Flaming Tiger Yilin. Flaming Tiger Yilin nodded when she heard this and said, Brother, Black Emperor went to visit that secret realm." "Big brother, the Black Emperor has been to that mystic realm before. It does exist, and there is no danger inside. However, there are restrictions on the spirit herbs growing inside. As long as you can break the restrictions, you can take the spirit herbs away." The Black Emperor saw that Little Yu and the others could break the restrictions, so he didn't stay inside for long. As soon as Flaming Tiger Yilin finished speaking, Black Emperor quickly nodded. When Yichen saw this, he couldn't help but frown. How strange. How could there be such a secret realm? There wasn't such news in his previous life. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, a sense of danger suddenly appeared in Yi Chen's heart. It grew stronger and stronger. When Yi Chun sensed this, his eyes widened, and he immediately released his divine sense. In the blink of an eye, it covered a radius of 2 million miles. After a few breaths, Yi Chen's face darkened. There was nothing abnormal within a radius of 2 million miles of Samsara City. But why did he feel a sense of danger? I have great fortune on me. Instinctive feelings don't appear randomly. In other words, that feeling is real. Could it be a secret realm? It must be a secret realm. There's something wrong with the secret realm that Xiaoyu went to. At this thought, Yi Chun hurriedly looked at Flaming Tiger Yi Lin and asked, "Where is that secret realm?" Chapter 1186. Flaming Tiger Yi Lin was stunned when she heard Yi Chen's words. She did not expect Yi Chun to be so serious all of a sudden. After coming back to her senses, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin did not dare to delay and hurriedly said, "Brother, the secret realm is in a cave 1,300 miles west of Samsara City." Yi Chun nodded when he heard this. Then, with a thought, his divine sense instantly locked onto the location that Flaming Tiger Yi Lin mentioned. In the next second, a purple light gate appeared directly in Yi Chen's divine sense. Seeing this, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly widened. The light gate at the entrance of the secret realm was blue, but this one was purple. This secret realm was definitely not simple. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, Diao Chan, who noticed that Yi Chen's expression was not right, hesitated for a moment, and then called out in a low voice, "Husband." After hearing Diao Chan's worried words, Yi Chen immediately came back to his senses. He then looked at Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Empress Hari, Nana, and the other girls, who all had worried expressions on their faces. There's something wrong with the secret realm, but it's not a big problem. I'll be back soon. As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, and Huang Yueying were all stunned. Empress Hari and Nana, who had just broken through the seal and reached the human immortal realm, came directly to Yi Chen's side and said with a serious expression, "Husband, Nana will go with you. Nana, you stay here and protect your sisters. I'll go by myself." After hearing Empress Hari and Nana's words, Yi Chun smiled, then stroked Nana's hair and said, Hearing this, Empress Hari and Nana were slightly stunned. Then she bit her lip and said, "Husband, you're at the peak of the crossing calamity stage. Even you have to take it seriously. It can't be simple, Nana." Before Empress Hari and Nana could finish speaking, Yi Chen directly stopped her. A few seconds later, Yi Chen's lips moved away from Nana's lips, and then he said seriously, "Nana, be obedient and stay here. Be good, be obedient and stay here. Your husband can guarantee that there won't be any danger and we'll be back soon." But Empress Hari and Nana hurriedly said when she heard this. However, under Yi Chen's gaze, she couldn't say the rest of her words. After a short hesitation, Nana immediately threw herself into Yi Chen's arms, hugged Yi Chen tightly, and then said softly, "Nana, wait here for your husband to come back, okay?" Yi Chen couldn't help but feel warm in his heart when he heard this. After that, he looked at Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yueying, and the other girls who were full of concern. "Don't worry, I'll be back soon. Husband, my sisters and I are waiting for you to come back." Zhao Yu, Diao Chan, Kai Yin, Mi Zhen, Huang Yueying, and Zhen Mi, as well as Philos Aureus, the Qiao, and Xiao Qiao, nodded in unison when they heard this. It was not that the women were not worried, but they were very clear about one thing: Yi Chen was their man, and Yi Chen's decision would not be easily changed. Of course, this was not the key. The key was that their realms were too low. Even Yi Chen had to be careful about this matter. It was not something they could participate in at all. Instead of worrying about this and that, and going with Yi Chen and causing trouble, it was better to stay in Samsara City and wait for Yi Chen to come back. As for Empress Hari, Nana, The reason why she was different from the other girls and said that she wanted to go with Yi-chan was that Nana was not a woman from the period of the Three Kingdoms, but from a fantasy world. In that world, the concept of the three obedience and four virtues was also there, but it was not as strong as in the period of the Three Kingdoms. Of course, this was not the key. The key was that Nana had now reached the human immortal realm, which was one realm higher than Yi-chan's. Under this premise, Nana could help Yi-chan if she went with him. Otherwise, Nana would not have said that she wanted to go with Yi-chan directly. Although Yi-chan was very moved, Yi-chan really could not let Nana, who had just been unsealed, go with him. The reason was very simple. Although Yi-chan was at the crossing calamity stage, Yi-chan's combat capability was comparable to an earthly immortal. What was more, he had the Xianhuang exquisite pagoda of heaven and earth and the 12th class Black Lotus of Destruction to protect him. Moreover, Yi-chan himself had the innate golden body of merit. It could be said that Yi-chan's defensive ability was very strong. If Yi-chan could be in danger, then Empress Hari and Nana would be in danger if they went with him. This was not what Yi-chan wanted to see. It was also for this reason that Yi-chan wanted Nana to go with him. As soon as the girls finished speaking, Yi-chan nodded. Then, with a thought, the space in front of him was distorted instantly. After taking a look at the distorted space, Yi-chan stepped into it and disappeared. In the west of Samsara City, 1,300 miles away, in a cave halfway up a mountain, the space was suddenly distorted. Then, Yi-chan stepped out and appeared here. After taking a look at the purple light gate in the cave, Yi-chan waved his right hand, and the God Slayer, a primordial treasure, appeared in his right hand instantly. In the next second, Yi-chan walked straight into the purple light gate and disappeared. In the secret realm, as soon as Yi-chan appeared, he felt a huge amount of spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Yi-chan, who was aware of this, moved his mind and released his enormous consciousness, after which it enveloped the entire secret realm. In the next second, Yi-chan's divine sense saw the treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu, the golden-haired monkey Xiao Jin, and little tortoise, who had the bloodline of the black tortoise. Seeing this, Yi-chan immediately breathed a sigh of relief. At least, they were not in danger yet. Thinking of this, Yi-chan stepped out and directly disappeared into the void. In the next second, Yi-chan appeared beside the treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu, Xiao Jin, and little tortoise. The treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu, Xiao Jin, and little tortoise, who were trying hard to remove the restriction on the spiritual herbs, were all stunned. Then, they looked straight at Yi-chan and called out, "Brother, master, don't resist. I'll put you into the small world first." Hearing this, Yi-chan nodded and said. After that, he waved his right hand and instantly put the treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu, Xiao Jin, and little tortoise into the small world. After taking a look at the three spiritual pets in the small world, Yi-chan let out a long breath. Then, he looked at this secret realm, which he felt was not right from the moment he entered. There were many spiritual herbs and immortal herbs in this secret realm. Although his divine sense could not detect anything unusual, the feeling of danger was not only still there, but also growing stronger. Where did the problem come from? Thinking of this, Yi-chan could not help but frown. Since his divine sense could not detect it, then he would use his fiery eyes of truth. Thinking of this, Yi-chan's eyes suddenly widened. Then, he saw two balls of fire burning in Yi-chan's eyes. At the same time, two golden lights shot out from Yi-chan's eyes. In the next second, Yi-chan looked around again. After a few breaths, Yi-chan's eyes suddenly widened. Holy shit! This secret realm was actually connected to two worlds. Looking at it this way, the feeling of danger should have come from the world connected to Earth, and the restriction on the spiritual herbs and immortal herbs in the secret realm was the key to opening the passage between the two worlds. Damn it, if that world can make me feel danger, it must be of a high level. Chapter 1187. Just as Yi-chan thought of this, an extremely weak spatial fluctuation suddenly appeared in the secret realm, and then it quickly became stronger. Yi-chan, who was aware of this, suddenly became gloomy. Damn it, the spatial channel between that world and this place has not been opened yet, and someone can't wait to come here. It seems like it was premeditated. Just as Ichin thought of this, a loud, clear, and rather arrogant cry suddenly resounded. Ah, Demon Clan! At the thought of this, Yi Chen's eyes widened. At this moment, the space in the secret realm, which was initially calm, suddenly distorted. Then, a young man in black robes stepped out and appeared in the secret realm. At this moment, the secret realm, which was originally full of spiritual energy, was directly filled with demon aura. At the same time, the young man who had just appeared in the secret realm looked straight at Yi Chen and then coldly shouted, "Boy, let me ask you, where is this place?" "The Netherworld." Yi Chen heard the young man's question, narrowed his eyes, and then said coldly. The young man was very wild and arrogant. Regardless of whether it was his eyes or his body, they were filled with an insufferably arrogant aura. Yi Chen did not like this kind of feeling. Just this point alone made it impossible for Yi Chen to treat him nicely. In addition, the demonic aura emanating from the young man's body made it even more impossible for Yi Chen to treat him nicely. As soon as Yi Chen's words fell, the young man's eyes suddenly opened, and an extremely violent killing intent suddenly emerged. "You're courting death." After a cold burst of anger, the young man raised his right hand and then patted the void toward Yi Chen. Boom! The explosion that shook the entire secret realm sounded in an instant, and then a huge bird's claw appeared out of thin air, and then with the power to tear the space, directly hit Yi Chen. Seeing this, Yi Chen smiled coldly, and in an instant, the 9 Revolutions mysterious art was activated crazily. Then, he raised his right hand and punched the void. Boom! The explosive spiritual chi of heaven and earth instantly condensed and transformed into an incomparably huge fist, directly meeting the huge bird claw in the air. In the next second, the 2 gigantic phantoms collided in midair. Boom! A deafening explosion followed. Then, a violent hurricane appeared at the place where the 2 shadows intersected. Then, it shook the secret realm. Roar! Roar! The wind howled as it blew against the young man and Yi Chen's clothes, causing them to emit a wild, flapping sound. The young man, who thought he could kill Yi Chen with a single blow, was stunned when he saw this. He then looked at Yi Chen and asked, "What is it? Brat, what cultivation method are you cultivating?" "A technique to kill you." Hearing this, Yi Chen took a deep look at the young man and then said. After that, he raised the Godslayer in his right hand and instantly used the reincarnation spear art. The moment the Godslayer stabbed out, the space in front of the Godslayer's spear tip suddenly distorted, and then the Godslayer stabbed into it and then disappeared. The young man, who was angry because of Yi Chen's words just now, was slightly stunned when he saw this, and then his face suddenly changed. Space ability, damn it. I thought I was abnormal enough, but I didn't expect to meet an even more abnormal one today. With such weak strength, not only can he withstand my casual blow, but he also has space ability. Speaking of this, the young man moved and instantly left the place. At this moment, the Godslayer directly stabbed out from the place where the young man was just standing. Yi Chen, who stabbed the air with his spear, suddenly frowned when he saw this. This bastard is from the Monster Clan. If he can transform, he must be at least at the Monster King level, and his speed is extremely fast, so he should be from the Bird Clan. What kind of world has such an existence? It's impossible in the Eldritch world. No native in the Eldritch world can come to Earth by themselves. Just as Yi Chen thought of this, the young man who dodged Yi Chen's attack suddenly looked at Yi Chen and said, "Brat, you are very arrogant, very abnormal, but I, the little golden-winged Rock King, am even more arrogant, even more abnormal." Hearing this, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly widened. Damn it, isn't the little golden-winged rock king in existence in the world that Yi Fan transmigrated to? Could it be that the world connected to Earth is the world that Yi Fan is in now? It should be. Otherwise, this would be too much of a coincidence. Just as Yi Chen thought of this, the little golden-winged Rock King's eyes suddenly widened, and then he shouted, "Heavenly Rock Slash!" As soon as the little golden-winged Rock King finished speaking, he raised his right hand into the air and then fiercely slashed at Yichun. Buzz! With a sound, a wing covered in golden feathers appeared out of thin air and slashed at Yichun. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of Yichun. Seeing this, Yichun's eyes suddenly narrowed. Then, with a thought, the space in front of him instantly distorted. At this moment, the wing cut straight into the distorted space and then disappeared. At the same time, the space behind the little golden-winged Rock King suddenly distorted. Then, the golden wings suddenly flew out and slashed at the little golden-winged Rock King. Clang! With a sound, the golden wing cut directly at the little golden-winged Rock King. Then, the little golden-winged Rock King fell straight to the ground. Seeing this, Yichun curled his lips in disdain. Time is king, and space is supreme. Although my realm is not as high as yours, I have the ability to control space. What do you do to me? Thinking of this, Yichun smiled coldly. He raised his left hand and pointed at the little golden-winged Rock King in the air. Thunder strike! Boom! 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 The sound of thunder shook the heavens and earth. Then, a bolt of lightning as thick as a water tank appeared out of thin air and struck the little golden-winged Rock King, who was just about to dodge. Boom! With a sound, thousands of tiny lightning bolts exploded on the little golden-winged Rock King's body and then flowed rapidly. After the dense sound of electric current, the little golden-winged Rock King, whose hair was standing up because of the lightning, had a flash of bloody light in his eyes. Then he flew straight into the sky. Ant, you have angered me. Today, I will let you know the consequences of offending me. The little golden-winged Rock King. As soon as the little golden-winged Rock King finished speaking, an extremely dense demonic aura exploded. Then, the little golden-winged Rock King shook his body and turned into a golden heavenly rock with a wingspan of 100 meters. Seeing this, Yichun moved his mind, and the mysterious yellow heaven and earth exquisite pagoda appeared instantly. Then, it stood directly above Yichun's head. At the same time, the little golden-winged Rock King, who had just transformed into his true form, opened his beak and roared, 108,000 swords. As soon as the little golden-winged Rock King finished speaking, the feathers on his body instantly left his body and turned into thousands of golden light swords. Then, with a strong destructive aura, they shot straight at Yichun. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.